Hello there. This is the Anti-Thanksgiving chat with some anti-fascists. Right now, so far, who we've got here, uh, Gwen No Fear had to bow out, but we have Bronx Blogger and some random geek who's now on my channel for what, the third, fourth time?
Fourth time, yes.
Fourth time.
I'm a regular now.
Yeah. I think I've actually had you on more than some of the people I've known longer. I think I've had Tim on like twice.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been in more chats with Kevin Logan, but Kevin Logan's only been on my channel like 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Nah.
Mike Rowan's only been on here twice, I think.
Yeah, and Bronx Blogger is just a constantly recurring guest because, I really like seeing black and red people in these chats.
It's always a pleasure to get away from, I show up on a lot of reactionary streams, and those can be very taxing, not because of, the thing of like, oh, you want people to agree with you. It's just that those people largely don't know what sorry, go ahead. People
on their own platforms, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've been on a lot of those really, hellspawn type shows.
But Andy Worski's whole fucking channel.
Yeah, I mean, Worski 6 months ago is not quite what Worski is now.
Yeah,
he used to be a little more moderate. In accordance with the YouTube Overton window, not moderate in reality, moderate on this nightmare hellscape
moderate compared spectrum. To Nazis, really.
Yeah, and now he's just like this really sad.
If you had basic bitch conservatives on one side and if you have basic bitch conservatives on one side and Nazis on the other, I'm sure Andy was somewhere in the center between there.
I mean, nowadays the Overton window on YouTube is to the point that being a basic bitch conservative is liberal. And being ethno-nationalist is center-right. And then, now they make this supposed distinction between being an ethno-nationalist and being an exterminationist. And that's just kind of like, I'm someone who, there's a difference between someone who takes shits and someone who wipes their ass. Like, who cares? Who cares about the distinction?
It's gone that far that we need to distinguish the shitters between at least the ones that wipe their ass. Wow.
Yeah, they want points. They want points for proposing what Hitler did, but not proposing the solutions Hitler did. That includes Richard Spencer. I can't tell you how many of these programs I've been on. Mike Enoch told me he was a Republican because I was like, well, what system of government do you support? He said a republic. I said, you cannot have a republic. Well, okay. Here's the problem. Yes, you can, but it's not honest to have a republic that includes ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, exactly.
Antifa.
Hey. The vegan anarchist.
We got the vegan anarchist here.
Yes. Now it's a party.
Now, not necessarily sure if Piper wants to come on.
I'm pretty much getting over the feud I have with Piper, anyways.
Feuds.
It was a really big. There was a really big schism in our friend group that I'd rather not like.
Yeah, let's not go into that. I'd rather not.
I think I played centrist more than I would like to in that, but I really couldn't pick a side completely because I felt like it wasn't my place to make a judgment on anybody.
Right.
I was chuckling just a minute ago, but that's because I'm going to tweet out this stream, and I saw the name you gave yourself, Rose. I had a chuckle at thought crime.
Yeah, THOT crimes.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter, bros. That's hilarious.
Yes, and here I'm just the multi-tax ninja and cosplayer at the left, self-identified as.
It's so weird being an anarchist on Thanksgiving. It's so loaded and catastrophic
But
to be
you know,
a.
if you bring it up, you're also like, you're like, they treat you like you're the one who's like got a problem.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem. It
Sure, they're
sets up a cognitive dissonance because Thanksgiving is about collectivism and being with your family and being a coherent unit, and then it contradicts itself with being premised on the extermination of. You know what I mean?
yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
I was almost tempted to bring it up with my family about this whole history, but I didn't. I just got drunk with my stepmom as she gave me just a tall glass of something out of the refrigerator, a drink she made, which I had to ask her for a while because there was liquid on the bottom and solid head of something on the top. Turns out to be cream rum. And so it was just a tall glass of pineapple vodka and cream rum. Thankfully, my stepmom was willing to share it because no way was I finished it all that night.
Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, nobody's finishing that on their own unless they're like fucking Lemmy from Motorhead. You know, Lemmy would have downed that in like 3 hours, but Lemmy was also a severe, quite severely alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he switched from hard liquor that is colored to vodka because of doctor's orders.
Well, no, he said. So yeah, he was told to cut down his sugar intake. So instead of Jack and Coke, he switched to vodka and orange juice. The guy switched from Jack and Coke to fucking screwdrivers.
I think most people would agree he lived a lot longer than he should have, or in terms of the odds.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, you gotta love Lemmy's attitude of life will take a time out of me while I'm taking a time out of it. There's something about that lived fast lifestyle that I think always appealed to me.
Mm-hmm.
Which now I kind of look back at it and think, yeah, maybe my appeal and almost obsession with living fast when I was younger led me to make some stupid decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And also at the same time was probably a sign that I needed to really get help because I was also very much struggling with thoughts of suicide throughout high school.
Yeah.
Which was the same period that I was really into the living fast lifestyle.
I think most teenagers are sort of, that's appealing. Some teachers too. But I think to most teenagers, it kind of is appealing because you're so far away from the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As a man who's cresting on 40, I'm starting to see all the punishments that you get for all the, debauchery or whatever that you engage in as a young person.
I was just switching between my phone to my laptop. What I miss?
Nothing much, I don't think.
We were just talking about when you're younger, you kind of are more self-destructive in terms of drinking and stuff like that. And when you get older, you start to realize that there's some kind of there's downside to that stuff.
I mean, I was the school dealer in high school, so.
Mm-hmm. I think actually,
that could have ended pretty badly. It almost did end badly over a guy who wanted to rip me off over a dime bag and say that I took $40 of weed from him.
Wow.
Yeah,
you
could more afford to screw around and do stuff, but when you're older, you can't really do that as much, if at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, your body starts like sort of like knocking on the door and going, whatever you're doing, please stop.
It. Please.
Yeah, I don't know how Lemmy didn't like do that earlier. Like it all hit him at once. Fucking, when he got to when he got to like 70, he got diagnosed with, or not 70, he got to 69 and he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Like a few days.
Yeah.
There was an article being written called Lemmy is Dying, and he died before the article was finished.
Oh my god.
Like that's how quickly everything came at him.
Damn.
I wonder if that article writer thinks like, did I just write in the death note for Lemmy Kilmister? Oh my god.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's got to be weird where you're like, I started writing this article and now Lemmy's fucking dead already?
What if I write an article about Trump? What would happen? Oh, damn it. Didn't work this time.
I mean, with Trump...
The thing is if that worked, you would then get President Pence, which...
Yeah. Big diff.
You just keep going down the line. That's like one of the biggest problems I have with the whole like impeach Trump kind of thing is like, well, no, if we impeach him, we're going to get someone just as bad as him, and we're going to keep going down the line through Republicans and Democrats who all have shit policy.
Yeah.
The Democrats will just capitulate.
Nothing.
Because that's what they always do, and the Republicans will set policy, which is what has been happening for... It's been happening for decades, It's pretty provable that the Democrats have no spine and the Republicans are just a fucking id on the playing field, so...
Well, we definitely have
losers.
We have a problem now in America where we have the only political parties we have are center right, far right, and then the base of the Republican Party is extreme right, and then the left is completely divested from the political system, completely divested. Like there's even the progressive caucus of the Democratic Party is a fucking joke. The most progressive Democrat in office is a joke. If you're talking about some kind of like constructive left project, and if Ocasio-Cortez, yes, but let's see where she is 4 years from now when
I bet she's probably gonna sell out in a few months anyways.
I mean,
no, really... she won't do it now. She won't do it now. What she'll do is she'll wait until they can trade her some legislative victories that she can then use to run as a mainstream Democratic candidate, and then she'll do what politicians do.
Yeah.
I see
because, in order to make it within the political system, you have to grease palms and you have to become part of the system. You can't become a part of a system as an insurgent. You have to become a part of the system by becoming a part of the system, even if you go in there intending to be an insurgent, which is why you're never going to be able to vote this shit away.
Yeah.
What about libertarian municipalism?
What's that?
It's what Book Chin came up with, and the idea is use citizens' assemblies and confederated so they'll displace nation states.
Okay, but that would be a new system. The problem in the United States of America is that our political system is not a political system. Our system of governance is capitalism. And then there's the pretense of some kind of representative democracy, but it's really a sham. It's basically it's a layer of clothing on top of capitalism. The real government is basically the capitalist class, and then there's subjects, and it's quasi feudalism, borderlining on. We're past oligarchy. That was, we had that, and that's out the window. We're well into like feudalistic kind of feudalism and monarch relationships with basically Trump, as a de facto king with no political interest, understanding, or a plan to actually engage in any kind of politics. He's just a ruler.
Well, we don't even do politics. Ancient Greece idea of politics, which is to do with the polis, is what counts as politics nowadays is now a joke compared to what it used to be. Even Greek, it was imperfect. You had slaves and women were excluded.
Yeah.
But like our politics is statecraft. We don't do proper politics anymore.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, we don't. We do not have any form.
Yeah. Which is what Rose would be interested in, because Bookchin wrote a lot about New England town assemblies and various other cities that are like confederated together to struggle against the nation state. I think that's what we should need to do, is start a confederation of like cities and free citizens assemblies to fight this nation state and the capitalist system.
Rose.
There might be a way for a bit or something like that. Or
sorry, I'm muted for a second because I'm trying to figure out how to get somebody into this chat.
Okay.
Geek, what do you think?
Isn't that what's like a currently? No, wait. I just remember Non-Compete just like released an interview that he did with someone from the International Commune for Java or in that region and stuff like that. So I think maybe what some of the ideas that like the vegan anarchist is saying is like kind of similar to what like Java's trying to do, at least,
which is where who had the same ideas in the first place.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but that speaks again to the fact that we cannot. This system is not for us.
Agreed.
Reforming the system is not for us. If the Social Democrats want to give it a shot, good luck. I'm not going to piss on them, but that's not our project. If they think that there's some kind of a more compassionate version of this system, I'm not an accelerationist. So if they want to make this as painless as possible for the plebs, I'll take it. But that's my project is not playing on their chessboard. My project is to knock over the chessboard and play a different game.
Well, yeah, obviously, but I'm still going to
instead of playing the real life game of Monopoly that we have going on.
Yeah, that is fairly generous. I think what we're dealing with right now is risk.
Yeah. Actual Monopoly. At least there are like rules that keep like
Well, Monopoly is fun for a certain period of time. This isn't fun.
No, it's not.
Well, it stopped being fun when it started existing.
Yeah, we're dealing with capitalist imperialism at this point. That's what the EU and the United States stand for, and the global capitalist order is basically it's an acquisition of territory through force, but the force is perpetuated under the premises of austerity. So they starve you instead of shooting you if they can get away with it, and that's polite, you know.
Yeah, but capitalism.
But which is more cool?
Are just symptoms of the problem of hierarchy.
I do agree.
But I mean, also, which is more humane? Like, I have a feeling that those are pretty much equally inhumane to just, one, you're starving somebody to death, or the other, you're shooting them,
Well, I mean, the starving to death is predicated on force in the first place.
Yes.
So,
both of them are predicated on force.
The fact that, of course, as probably the fact that, like, people go hungry is because all of the resources to produce food and all of the food itself is privatized, and you can only buy it. You can only attain it through a transaction on the market, and you can't participate in the market if you don't have money.
Oh yeah, and then what isn't bought as far as food production goes, because we produce more than enough food for everybody to eat.
Wasted, yeah.
And we throw a lot of it away. In fact, I don't even really pay attention to expiration dates anymore. Like, if I have food, I just, open it up and smell it. And if it smells good and, like, tastes okay, I'm just going to assume it's all right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, also those expiration dates are just like, it's a like Best Buy date.
They're not realistic at all.
Yeah, they're not. It's not. No. Every state has their own different laws about that, and so it's like it's all confusing.
And even then, even then, the best ones are still based off of like best guesses of like when's best to eat it. So, technically, if it's a little past the expiration date, it might be less than like its prime, but that doesn't mean you have to waste it. You can still eat it, which I think if you're a politician, that's like something that you probably already know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're someone who can afford food just fine, you can still like be less wasteful if you just think, maybe if it's a bit past its expiration date, but it doesn't like smell bad or like taste bad, we can eat it.
Yeah. Just cook up that night if you like got the olive oil or whatever and the seasonings and stuff like that. Besides, there's always seasonings that makes things taste better.
It's going to be fun. Well, I mean, even then, it's not about the taste as much as, like when I say the taste, I mean like making sure that it doesn't taste like it's rotting or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my understanding is that the predominance of the food waste in our country, in North America, is caused by fast food restaurants constantly throwing away edible food for sake of
It's not just fast food restaurants. It's like even supermarkets. Basically, anything that you don't sell gets thrown away because if you give it away, then there's no profit from it, and basically just it would be a profit loss technically. Even if you destroy it, right, you're still not like giving it away to someone to consume for free. So the profit loss is cut down at some level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even like John Oliver on the Last Week Tonight, he only give like a market solution to that problem, whereas like we need to give all these businesses tax breaks and ensure that's there so that they'll be.
That's really weird, though. Isn't he like a liberal? Why would he argue for like corporate tax cuts?
Because he is a liberal. That's why. Hey, but
I understand, like in that sense. I mean, like liberal in the sense of like we should regulate the corporations some more. Like,
he does go.
I think he was talking. Actually, I don't remember that episode because I had remembered him saying something about like giving subsidies to like farmers and stuff, but like,
I mean, we already.
But no market's gonna like encourage like corporations to waste food because that's also true. Most of the food waste comes from like fast food, basically throwing a lot of it away. But yeah, I was mainly just giving kind of like a tip, like for people trying to like either save money or maybe, being a bit conscientious about like the fact that they can eat stuff a little past the date.
Mm-hmm.
But, definitely as far as the food waste goes, corporations are a much bigger issue, and just getting everybody to eat stuff that's past its due date isn't going to be enough.
Agreed.
Or I say due date. It's fucking, the sell by date that's like doesn't apply to anything.
Exactly.
And it seems like people are dropping out of the chat.
Vegan Annika said that she'll be back, but I don't know why the Bronx left. Hopefully they'll be back.
Technical thing.
No, I would guess it'd be a technical thing. Bronx did had some technical things earlier before we were live on air, so hopefully maybe he's like, oh god, my phone's losing battery or stuff like that, so that's why he just dropped out. Okay, there he is. He's back.
Oh, yep. There we go. There's Bronx Blogger.
Sorry about that. I my internet connection betrayed me.
Oh yes, that happens to me too. So if I freeze or drop, it may be because of that.
Yeah, I had to switch from mobile to Wi-Fi, so hopefully this will be more stable.
What happened there was actually that your internet connection went on strike. It was tired of your exploitation of it. And so
yeah, you know what's interesting with sorry, oh god, stupid noise in the background. You know what's interesting with all this stuff is that there are so many things everyday people can do to like sort of stem hunger, but they teach us that we're not supposed to do things like feed other people or share our food or chip in. Like even the structure itself, like you're not supposed to help people eat unless it's through some kind of alienated thing like food stamps or something.
Oh yeah, and then there are some places where it's basically illegal to it's basically legislated that you're not allowed to feed the homeless, which is like really fucking absurd in my opinion.
Yeah, and the point of that is to keep us alienated. You know?
Have you ever seen those like dumb shows on National Geographic or whatever, where like a family is preparing for the apocalypse because they're scared shitless?
Oh, doomsday preppers?
Yeah, they're scared shitless about some like viral outbreak or electricity failure or something. Those people, like, the reason that they individually prepare is because they don't think that, like, if a catastrophe happens, they don't think that, like, communally coming together with their neighbors to, you know, make sure everyone survives. They don't.
Oh yeah, I always thought about how, like, you know, if I was preparing for the apocalypse, I'd be getting the whole fucking neighborhood together.
Well, yeah, so, like, the thing is, they don't think that's an option. They think that other people are, like, the marauding hordes that are going to come for their supplies because they're unprepared. So, like, it's kind of amazing to me how, even on that base level, like, the neoliberal ideology of earn your keep and keep it for yourself is kind of, it's even permeated into, like, you know, the really weird doomsday prepper culture.
Every person for themselves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, doomsday preppers is just another consumer identity, and it's kind of, it's consumer identity that is fueled by the same paranoia of you need to. Firstly, they feed you like an essentialist narrative about animals that our philosophy itself disavows immediately, that animals are sort of brutal Hobbesian creatures, and therefore, since we're animals, our inherent is.
They think the masses of people are the marauding hordes that are going to take their stuff in that situation.
Right, because they're taught that animals don't help each other or cooperate or socialize. They're taught that animals are savages, which savagery itself is a myth. Savagery itself is a myth. It doesn't exist within any living being. You know, like animals who survive cooperate.
Yeah, and animals who don't cooperate, like especially in like social species, such as like humans and like great apes and stuff like that. Social species don't survive when they split off from their groups or when they don't cooperate with groups.
There's the other thing about doomsday preppers is that, like, it kind of, not only is it like based in this individualist earn your keep, struggle to survive type deal, which mirrors the neoliberal ideology, but at the same time it comes from this this fact that the modern social situation is unstable. You know, it comes from the fact that the environment is being destroyed. There's not good enough infrastructure. The economy is in a bad state, so people are afraid of, people in the first world are afraid of living in a third world country or something. So it's kind of, it not only does it internalize the neoliberal ethic, but it comes from the fact that capitalist society is inherently unstable.
Can y'all hear me? I have to do some chores and then I'm back.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh yeah, I used to always look at that show and like wonder, like, you know, why aren't they getting their neighbors like involved? Like, why aren't they trying to get the community to like prepare for the worst?
Well, my critique of it is that the instability comes from capitalism. It's not some existential possibility that comes from the universe. I mean, if you're talking about nature itself,
no, I'm not talking about nature itself. I'm talking about like.
I know, but I'm saying like what my thing with it is. So, like if you're talking about,
looking at it through a dialectical point of view.
If you look at it from like what nature could do to humanity, there could be an asteroid that hits the Earth that wipes out all life anytime. Literally, it could happen in the next 3 seconds. And there's no way to prepare for that.
It has happened before.
Right, exactly. You know, at any point, the Yellowstone volcano could fucking, you know, go off and destroy human society.
Most of humanity.
Right, and there's no way to prepare for that, really. If in terms of like the actual disasters that we can prevent, those come from the instability of
Capitalism.
The way you prevent those disasters is by abolishing capitalism. So to me, it's just like a form of like ideological enslavement to capitalism, that kind of doomsday prepper stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since like it's a lot of people who are not critical of capitalism for whatever reason, stuff like that. It's almost like a completely different system than the system we have now. It's almost an existential crisis, which is why they almost can't imagine a world without it.
Right.
And
you know what's funny? Like, I know that it's gonna sound like weird, but like I think Fallout is a good demonstrate. Like, at least the original like Fallout games,
the first one, yeah,
like the first two.
Yeah,
I think those are kind of like a very like indirectly. I think that those are like a critique of like doomsday preppers, since they basically predict that, oh yeah, in the face of disaster, communities of humans will find each other and work together and like build settlements and live off of what they can, because no human can just survive on their own out in this wasteland, you know.
Oh yeah, they're underestimating social deprivation. So the shit of like, well, I have 100 years worth of food and I'm going to live in the shelter with me and my
I'm gonna live in this
dog.
base. I'm gonna live
with me, my dog, and like my family.
Me and my family are gonna live in this like fortified house that I fucking paid however many millions of dollars for, and it's all the supplies that I've paid thousands of dollars for before the disaster, and you know, somehow I'm going to just defend all of that with my little shotgun or whatever.
Yeah, but look at fucking, there are families that can't make it through the isolation of Thanksgiving together, let alone fucking we're gonna spend the next 60 years eyeballing each other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you know. Also, you know, sometimes they're like, oh, you know, it's just gonna be what the fuck are you gonna do, like, when it comes time? Like, do you expect your kids to like never fuck anybody? Like,
I mean,
well, if they're fundamentalists, maybe.
I would hope the sex would come secondary to this question, but
oh yeah, it does come secondary. But I do like wonder because
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Because they're always like the one family, and maybe they bring like the daughter and son's husband and wife or whatever, like, to come along with them, like their kids' families to come along with them. But like, what do you do when you get to the next generation eventually? Like, do they think that they're just going to be able to live isolated forever and not have...
The other thing about it is that these people stockpile supplies, and the problem is with their vision of eking out a secluded existence in a post-apocalyptic future, they're going to have no access. Like, the reason they're stockpiling in the first place is because they're going to have no access to actual social production that like produces things for them to use on a regular basis. So like, eventually they're going to run out of those supplies and either die or have to, like, you know, survive in the wilderness or something.
Yeah, you know, they'll eventually at some point have to actually know, like they'll have to know how to like grow shit. Like, you cannot have like a human, like, you can't have humans sitting in one place if you're not growing like food. It's just impossible.
But in survival, unless you do grow their own food, though. To be fair, though.
The other problem with it is that like that's not what happens in a disaster either. So like, you know, recently there was an amazing example with the recent hurricanes in the United States, where basically FEMA were not helping these poor communities. You know, they're poor communities, people of color. They don't really give a shit. The people that are getting rescued on the news are, you know, rich white people. They leave these people out to dry. So they people essentially communally came together and supplied water and fixed each other's houses and supplied boats. You know, they didn't try to individually make it. If they did, they would have died.
No, but they're supposed to try to individually make it. Otherwise, they're not a real American. I'm sorry.
They essentially created like a small kind of socialistic like community and economy in place of the help that FEMA wouldn't give them.
I'm just going to interject with a couple of things that came from the live chat. Anarchist Mugwap is in the live chat, and he said that I remember an amazing video of religious zealots is shilling doomsday stuff during the elections, telling people to prepare for Hillary's America.
Well, those people don't want to actually. They're not preppers. They just believe that they think that people should repent religiously and then they'll be saved in the afterlife. That's basically what they.
But then Trump won, and they were just awkward. But Rex Lesser also says that I think that the preppers are the savages that they pretend everyone else are. So kind of a bit of projection.
Well, yeah, because they literally just want to live off of stuff that was already made for them, that they had millions of dollars to stockpile.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to live off of that for the rest of their days. Any scenario that fucking their current situation breaks down, which I really think that something that they would consider a doomsday scenario would be a day where fucking people take back all the resources that corporations have been taking from us for years.
Yeah, that's the premise of reactionary politics itself, is everyone else must be a nihilist egomaniac because I know I am, and that's what I would do to you if you were vulnerable because, I have no empathy and I'm a monster.
Well, thing about
when people make that human nature point, I really think it says more about them than it does about me. It's like
the thing about reactionary politics with that, though, is that, that's an accurate categorization of neoliberal capitalist ideology, right? But it's not really accurate in terms of when you're talking about fascism or neo-reactionaries or deeply kind of reactionary people like that. They actually think that a social order, a collective order needs to be preserved, not in the way that obviously we do, but they think that there needs to be a social order that's preserved through rigid hierarchies that they believe that come out of nature. So it's kind of actually the opposite in a way. So the further you go right, the more you get away from the individualist ideology.
I mean, my thing with fascist is I take everything they say with a grain of salt. I've never seen a successful fascist society with an actually functioning hierarchy. It's just a death machine that grinds blood and bones up. The idea of any form of social cohesion existing under fascism is dubious. Even a ruthless hierarchy, even a ruthless hierarchy has to hold together. Like a monarchy can exist, but fascism to me is just trying to survive by eating rat poison. You just can't do it.
Well, I mean, there has to be some social cohesion. So the historical fascist societies wouldn't have existed if there wasn't any social system. And the other thing is that these people really don't care about, the fact that their ideas would imply, massive death. They understand that. They just stray away from that so that they can get good PR. They don't really care about that. They care about this idea of the social order that they have in their heads for, their traditional societies, quote unquote.
Yeah.
They don't really.
Yeah, but fascism doesn't even. To me, here's the thing with fascism. Fascism uses things that they don't mean all the time, or things they don't understand. Like a traditional conservative society isn't fascism. It's not anarchism, and it's not a leftist proposition. But a traditional society, as malignant as it is not fascism. Fascism is just it's a program for sustaining a society via selective extermination.
Mm.
Well, but that's the idea that they're the collective extermination is in pursuit of the goal of traditional hierarchy. So
right, but it's a canard. It'll never lead to it. It's
it depends on what kind of hierarchies you're talking about. I mean, the fascist societies, they did. I mean, they didn't do it completely, but they did. Exterminate the people that didn't feel fitted into their traditional society. They enforced, a rigid regime that was extremely hierarchical, obviously. So I don't know.
Yeah, but there were like 10 Nazis that lived well, and then everyone else was completely fucked in Nazi Germany. Even the Aryan people, they were just cheering at the rallies because they'd get shot if they didn't.
That's the ideological part about it, where supposedly everyone's going to be provided for, but they aren't.
Yeah, it's horseshit.
So I would agree that doesn't actually happen in reality, but I don't think it can really be ignored how much fascism has an ideological basis, and it's not. I mean, the revolutionary stuff that's in fascism, quote unquote, the stuff about the current order is destroying traditional society, so we have to revolt against it and install traditional society. That stuff is hogwash. I agree.
Yeah.
Because they don't, because fascism is really based in a radical defense of the existing hierarchies.
Correct. It's the super duper
hierarchies.
Yeah, exactly. It's the current power structure times 10. Right.
Yeah.
So there is no revolution. Fascism is inherently counter-revolutionary. It's the most counter-revolutionary politics available.
They even fascists even contend that the traditional hierarchies, or the hierarchies that we have, are not good enough.
Correct.
As far as So, but in reality, that's what they're going to be defending. So they're going to defend capitalism. They're going to defend, the capitalist economy, private property, which they think is destructive of traditional society and nationalism. So in that sense, I agree with you.
Yeah, they're from having spoken to these people one-on-one for hours. This includes behind the scene. The only thing that really puts the chocolate chips in the cookie for these people is that they're going to be able to get revenge on everyone they want to blame for their lives being shitty. It's gay people's fault. It's trans people's fault. It's my ex-wife's fault. It's Jews' fault.
It's the Jews.
It's just a program for revenge and annihilation, and the rest is just pretense. I just want to kill the entire world. Sort of unspoken agreement between these people.
I mean, I think that's a big part of it, but
the rest is denial. The rest is things that people feed themselves so they don't have to acknowledge their shit stains.
Yes,
but
the
real,
large part. But I don't think it can be ignored that modern fascists point of recruitment is disenfranchised, white, straight, cis people.
Yeah. So that they do is
those people are attracted to fascism because, in some form, they do think. I mean, they don't really care about other people necessarily, but
they don't.
In some form, they do think that fascism will provide the stability that they are not getting from modern capitalism.
I would say that they're probably more there for revenge than any. You got to listen to the way they talk. They put icing on it, but it's still a cake made out of shit.
Yes, I'm aware, right? They want to kill everybody that's not them, obviously. But
correct.
At the same time,
the revenge is the premise. The revenge is the premise. The rest is pretense.
My point is, right, that there's a social basis for the ideology, right? In the sense that there are people's real concerns that get twisted and used for the goal of that ideology. For instance, with Trump, Trump attracted so many people in part, and now the whole thing with the white working class was kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
But in part, I mean, the phenomenon of electing right-wing governments all over the world is the combination of the instability of the economic crisis and a combination of the fact that all of these
but remember what Trump offers you.
Power threatened by people that are not like them. So
this is,
and I'm not saying that obviously that they should have that power. They shouldn't, and the fact that they feel that that power is threatened is a good thing in the long run. But there's something you can't ignore in the fact that, and especially tactically, if you're looking to persuade, and knock down the recruiting basis of fascist groups, there's a part of it that you can't ignore in the sense that it appeals to some real concerns. Some, not,
Are you saying persuade fascists to deconvert, or who am I persuading?
No, that's not what I'm arguing at all. What I'm arguing is that there is a social basis that fascists use to recruit from. That's a lot of the time disenfranchised, white people or males or whatever. So, it's a matter of
right, but it's a constructed disenfranchisement. It's a constructed disenfranchisement. I mean, these frat boys who facilitate the alt-right, they're born rich.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about privileged frat boys. I'm not talking about that.
I think Piper's talking about like the street Nazis.
Well, and that's a weird way to say it. I'm talking about actual working class people that have the quote unquote wages of whiteness, where they have advantages because they are white.
Yeah.
And fascism would appeal to them. If, a fascist comes along and says, well, the reason that you're in such a bad situation economically is because your whiteness isn't being respected.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is you should, the way to drain the social base from fascism, at least short term, is, recruit those disenfranchised white workers and, get it into their heads that the reason that they're fucked over is because they're workers, not because they're white. And in fact, their whiteness actually hurts other people.
I think the persuasion of those people is a lost endeavor that we've wasted a lot of time on. I think that those people don't want to believe. If they've gotten to the alt-right, they don't want to believe.
I think before they actually go to the alt-right.
I'm not talking about people who are already persuaded. I'm not really talking about the alt-right either. I mean, the alt-right. Yes. The alt-right is full of college grads and stuff like that, and intellectuals. Yes. Fuck them. But, they don't have any worries about economic instability. What I'm saying is,
you mean rednecks?
Could possibly. What I mean is, people who would be a base for recruiting for fascists, people who fascists would target for recruitment.
Right. Yeah.
Those people should be. You should go to those people and say, actually, the reason that you feel disenfranchised is because of the fact that you're exploited economically, and your whiteness that you're holding on to is a tool not only to keep you down, but to keep the people of color down who are also in your economic situation.
I'm not against it. I'm not against it, but I'm always very kind of weary of proselytizing to people who kind of live in sort of cultures where they're not amenable to any kind of they got to kind of already wake up in a sense before I can really kind of put any of that stuff to them, because sort of trying to
I'm not talking about people who are sitting there and saying, what would be great if the whole country was white. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm talking about people who have yet to be touched by that ideology.
Right.
Like people who haven't even been touched by Gamergate levels of misogyny.
Even if you're talking about dumb people who go around being anti-feminists on the internet, fuck those people. There's no reason to approach them. But
I agree.
About actual life. I'm talking about actual working class people who would be recruited by fascists. You should recruit them first.
Well,
that's a complex endeavor, because I can't offer them the shibboleths that those alt-righters and Nazis will offer them. They will test me on, do you speak the language? And my answer...
Why would you speak their language? The goal would be to knock down that idea in the first place. I don't know why.
To get your idea before the fascists even get their idea to them.
It wouldn't be about saying, leftism is good for the white person, because it's not, right? And that's a good thing, right? It would be about, actually, this concept of whiteness is bullshit, and you shouldn't buy into it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you got to remember that part of all this stuff, because I've had these discussions before, part of politics is just like part of religion. Part of it has to be that you come to it, that you discover it. You know what I mean? Part of it is that people trust more so conclusions that they come to on their own. So I try to put my ideas out there, and if people find them, they find them. But
Well,
I don't know.
I'm not giving you personally a mission. I'm not doing that.
Right.
I'm saying in terms of tactics for a movement. I'm not talking about what you need to do as a person right now, sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
What would I miss, anyways?
We just been free forming. I think that's pretty much.
Right.
We've just
Yeah,
been free forming.
I think a helpful example. Right? So obviously, white nationalism and black nationalism are completely different. You can't compare the two. But
Yes.
Agreed.
many forms of black nationalism, I would argue, any form of nationalism, is fundamentally non-conducive to the interests of people of color in terms of their liberation. Right.
Yeah.
So when groups like, the social base of the Nation of Islam, for example, when it got big in the 80s, was black people who were oppressed by whiteness, oppressed by capitalism.
Yeah.
Should we not approach those black people because they have, the potential to be recruited by the nation? I don't think that's a rational conclusion, right? I think
no, but you have to remember who black people are and who white people are in this country, and who the fundamentals of what the fundamentals of their identity are. Hotep's going to be Hoteps. They're gonna do that because they are who they are. We need to change conditions. That's the most important thing we have to do. We have to create class consciousness by changing existing conditions.
How do you change existing conditions though without a social movement with ranks of people? You wouldn't.
Right, but there are people that are gonna kind of get on board.
Well, how many people? If you're fundamentally averse towards convincing people because you think that's a waste of time, then how many people are you going to have behind you at the end of the day to change existing conditions?
I mean, I'm willing to talk to neutral parties, but I'm not going to go anywhere where I'm willing to.
I mean, I don't think it's necessary to talk to. Again, I'm not arguing for convincing fascists, but you do have to engage with people who those people would recruit, so that they can't be recruited.
Yeah. But it's difficult because the reason they pick those people is that those people are kind of. Sorry, go ahead, Vegan. Go ahead.
Isn't that what Redneck Revolt kind of does?
No, I think Redneck Revolt is stupid, to be honest. I think their approach is ridiculous.
I don't know. Please explain, Piper.
Because number one, as a group, regardless of its mission, as a group, it's not very good. As a group, they, one of their, leading figures, Dwayne Dixon, met up with right-wing militiamen when shooting with him, and the group tried to defend him on it. They doubled down. So I don't really see Redneck Revolt as allies in that sense. In terms of their ideology, I mean, their approach isn't really. Their approach, it's actually based on appealing to white people more than I think is necessary. Their appeal is that, basically their appeal is, leftism is good for white people, essentially. That's their appeal. Their appeal is, well, as a white person, you got laid off from your job. So, white people, why don't you blame the corporations for not respecting your rights as a white person rather than the people of color? And I don't think you should appeal to the rights of white people. I think you need to appeal to the fact that whiteness is bad in the first place, and whiteness needs to be rejected.
Yeah, but if you can get those white, then you can do a sleight of hand tactic.
I will say though,
I don't think
no matter which way you go, the left will always have its work more cut out for it. Because, the right has a much easier appeal.
Yes.
That's because it's appealing to the defense of the existing order.
Yeah, it's very much, honestly, I would say, too, that it's very much an instant gratification kind of appeal, too.
Sure. Here's a clear-cut enemy. Here is A plus B equals C. I'm going to give you answers immediately. You don't have to do any kind of work whatsoever. I see what you're saying. I mean, look, if I'm speaking to a white person, they don't have any other problems other than being workers. They have economic problems. They don't have identity problems. So I would address that person's problems as a worker. But if I'm talking to a non-white person in this country, then they have worker-based problems, but they also have identity problems that need to be addressed. But white people don't have any kind of identity problems. They just have economic problems. And if we declare this is our economic program, they can bring their ass. They can bring their ass to me because I made a declaration of an economic program that works for them, and they can decide to leave whiteness behind if they value their economic situation more than that. But I'm not going to say anything to them. I'm not going to speak to their whiteness. That's their own problem.
Yeah, well, that was my argument, right? My argument is that you shouldn't speak to their whiteness. You should speak to their economic disadvantage.
Right. But I mean, I don't have to explain to these even white nationalists basically sort of understand how fucked up capitalism is. They just don't propose anything other than punishment and revenge and things like that for it.
Most people understand how fucked up capitalism is, but the thing is, most people don't.
They're not stupid.
Most people don't put a face to it. Most people don't put, okay, this is capitalism. Most people don't say, okay, the way out of this is socialism or revolution or something.
Oh no, but you don't even have to present it as that. All you have to do is say we're fucking turning on the boss, and then the hierarchy, it goes up from there. The most important revolutions at the ground level. All you have to do is tell them the boss is a piece of shit.
I don't know that's no, because the problem with that is that, like, if you're doing a social movement, if you just want to overturn the whole thing by spontaneous action without any coherent movement or ideas behind it, I mean, that's one thing, and I don't think that'll work. But I think what you need to do is you have to have a movement with clear ideas, and I think,
what's your position? Are you ANCOM?
Yes.
I mean, to me, theory doesn't matter very much if you don't do anything. So you don't have to sell communism or whatever to people. You just have to sort of, focus their discontent on the right people, on the right institutions. You don't have to give them the branding.
I don't.
I mean, I think you still have to teach them about, like.
I don't agree with that. Here's why I don't agree with that. The reason I don't agree with that is because you're not giving people an analysis. Right? You're not giving people, and it doesn't have to be an academic theory, right? I don't think it should be. Academic theory is beyond the scope of most working class people, and it's not because they're dumb. It's because why the fuck would they want to bother with it? And I agree with them. But if you're gonna actually liberate people, you have to give them the tools to understand the world themselves, right? You can't just say these are the bad guys, because that's not liberating anyone. You're manipulating people to go after other groups, essentially. It's basically a vanguardist approach. So, and as anarchists, the goal is that people liberate themselves, and they can only do that if they're given certain tools.
Why not use communities to do so, and community self-defense?
I think yes. Fascism. I think the community should be. I think this kind of analysis should be distributed and taught communally. I agree with that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it needs to be. I actually think it shouldn't be, intellectuals, Leninist intellectuals. That's bullshit. That's not.
No, it should be working class. It should be the working class revolutionaries who basically they know what they're going through. Like, I know what another white poor person goes through because I go through it every fucking day. So, I can be like, hey, I can say something to them in kind of over different conversations and over like different discussions, kind of give them some kind of or some amount of analysis on the world so that they can, maybe think through things themselves. But I can't just say there's the bad guy and there's a bad guy and there's another bad guy.
Okay, so let me just give an example, not necessarily as a counterpoint, because none of this is about me saying that you're wrong. That's not my point. I just want to be that clear.
Oh, I don't think anybody.
I just generally seem to have a combative nature. I participated in a protest not too long ago called the Fight for 15. Is everybody aware of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I myself have been at quite a few protests, although both of mine have, although both of the ones that I've been to recently have been very LGBTQ focused. Although I did go to a union strike for workers in my city.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And again, I always submit to people that, as a commentator, right, um, my main focus, or at least in terms of, I don't have post-secondary education, and my understanding of theory is a little limited because I don't have post-secondary and I didn't have access to certain resources. So most of what my channel does is analyze the existing movement on the other side, right? Like my understanding of fascism is probably a little stronger than the kind of the specific picadillos of anarchist theory. So feel free to educate me because I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
I am really learning, so please educate me as much as possible as well.
I'm still
yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
Well,
Also,
I think I have
Han
a very
Reiner is
similar
better than Max Turner. We need Han Reiner.
So again, not to be too self-deprecating, but I do have a somewhat pedestrian understanding of my positive positions on this stuff. But my idea of an effective protest was the Fight for 15, and kind of there wasn't really any ideology there other than the goal.
Yeah.
And if that's kind of generally what my activism in my personal life has generally been, because a lot of it has to do with organizing through my labor union and stuff. So what's wrong with organizing a movement around the goal rather than like philosophy or ideology or something? Not that I'm against that, but I'm just saying in a utilitarian sense, in the times where I have acted as an activist in the real world, most of the messaging was like, this is our goal, this is what we want, and that's all we did.
Well, okay, here's the thing with that, right? So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with organizing for a specific demand. Obviously, people do that all the time. You need to do that at some points.
Yeah.
Right, that was the focus of Fight for 15, was the $15 an hour minimum wage.
Right.
But the problem there is that if you're only thinking about specific demands, right, then there's no reason, like there's nothing pulling you towards overthrowing the existing system and replacing it with something better if you're just thinking about specific demands. Because then the struggle for the existing demands goes on forever. And
right, but see,
there's been arguments to the contrary.
Right.
So, for instance, Trotskyists in their transitional program argue that, basically those demands, basically the vanguard can push people towards those demands. And once those demands are inevitably defeated by capitalism, then magically people will realize capitalism's the problem. That's bullshit. That's just driving people into defeat. That's what that is. And it's essentially you're just demoralizing people, if anything.
Okay, so I'm speaking from my own little, for context, I'm speaking from my own little microcosm, and most of the people that I met on the picket lines, so to speak, with that movement, were like me. They didn't have college education. They had pretty, again, and I probably have more complex politics than the average person I spoke to. Like the average person I spoke to wouldn't know who Noam Chomsky was, for example, or where to start with that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, before I got into like radical politics, I myself wouldn't have. Everybody has to start somewhere.
Like where I organize, right? I'm 30. I'm in my late 30s, and the protests that I have worked with and for and organized for have always been like Fight for 15. And I just don't know. I just don't know how I would do it the other way. Like up here, meaning like like in San Francisco, you could do something like that. Like, how do you do that here where I live with these people?
Well, there's no you doing that, unfortunately. There's nothing like you yourself cannot do something to make that happen alone. You would have to involve other people, and I don't know how you would do that with those people because I'm not in that situation. At some level, it has to take into account the conditions that you find on the ground.
I mean, I'm not. I don't want to make it clear. I don't want to make it seem like I'm disparaging my own people. But I'm just saying, this is my experience.
That's not what I took from it.
Right.
But I don't know what the conditions you're facing on the ground are, so I can't give you obviously a instruction manual or even a really good description. I just can't.
Right.
What I am saying is that there's no if people are going to be empowered to take down the whole current order and replace it with something better, they have to they have to know to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, but unless you have the tools to understand modern society and to come up with some idea of what should replace it, then you can't, there's no actual way to accomplish the goal then, because you don't even have somebody in mind.
Do you guys feel? Do you get that?
And also,
do the other members of this chat feel like labor unions? I meant guys in a generic sense, and I know that's shitty. I didn't mean that. Let me take that out. Folks, thank you. Do you feel that labor unions are a half measure of collectivism when it comes to being an anarchist?
No, because I think that labor unions, when properly organized, can and should be revolutionary.
Okay.
I think that corporate unions are at least unions that are kind of integrated into the corporate structure, though, are really bad and kind of just.
What's a corporate union?
I mean, I would use the word reformist union, which are those unions are basically they're not run by their members. They have a full-time bureaucracy that runs them, that's paid to do that. And their job is to compromise with the bosses and essentially limit militancy whatever way they can, not even really to get workers benefits.
So you mean private sector unions then?
Well, there's a lot of public unions that are like that. I mean, AFL-CIO is public union, correct? And it's a business union, which is basically that. I mean, so it has to do with the structure of the union.
It has it has much more to do with the structure of the union as opposed to unions themselves.
Yeah, I think the SPIA union for Boeing, which is the union that my dad is a part of, is similar to that, and they also have a separate machinist union as well. So I think it works like that.
What do you say about Butch's criticisms of anarcho-syndicalism?
I mean, that's kind of a different topic. We could get onto that, I guess, after we finish this.
But, yeah, and Piper would know a lot more about it than I do, since I'm not this big, I'm not this big theory nerd at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of someone who observes myself and forms my own opinions.
I don't think people should have to be theory nerds. The other thing that Bronx Blogger was mentioning, secondary education. I mean, I'm not this is not what I'm proposing. Is not get people to understand the academic theory behind these things. Mm-hmm. I don't give a shit about that. What I give a shit about is giving people the tools to do their own research and come up with their own conclusions on their own basis.
Oh yeah, I mean, look,
academic theory if they want to. They don't have to, and probably many people won't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, I was.
The thing about revolutionary theory is it should be accessible to every person. It shouldn't be an academic theory, and I think a problem with the existing revolutionary theory a lot of the time
that it's very much owned by academics.
Is that it's about academic Marxists reading tomes of texts at universities and then coming up with a breakthrough.
Yeah, zero books. I've had multiple spats with zero books who are like, you've gotta, this kind. They're gatekeeping. I don't know if you guys know much about their internal.
Yeah, exactly. Even Christiosity did a thread on zero books on Twitter. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, they're the absolute worst. They're so we're gonna read Das Kapital. Fuck off. Fuck off with that shit. Throw that book in the garbage, please.
I need advice from my struggle, and I'm within a few miles of the border wall. And when I did show up to a protest meeting, I felt like I can't remember if it was Greenpeace or one of those other green environmentalists felt so they have such a superiority feel. I don't know how to describe it. And they don't even visit the colonias or anything like that. They just talk to the white people. They don't talk to the people of color, or the Latinx, darker skinned people in my area.
Here's the thing about Zero Books. Okay, Zero Books is as a publisher, unlike AK Press, unlike maybe some others. Maybe Haymarket Books is probably not as bad as Zero Books. Zero Books is a publisher for academics and their theoretical breakthroughs. Zero Books is about holding talks. Their form of organizing is, okay, we're going to hold a talk where a bunch of people sit facing a desk and some academic goes on about his new interpretation of Marx's value theory or something. That's what Zero Books. And I buy books from Zero Books, but they're not.
That sounds very pretentious, though.
I would have expected them to be completely inaccessible and not at all oriented towards actual organizing. So I mean, it's not surprising that you're saying this, because I would have guessed that's what they were like.
So Vegan, you were talking about stratification within protests, and I remember that really stuck out like a sore thumb.
Or I can't remember if it was or Sierra Club. I felt like they were really elitist towards me, and they didn't reach like the colonias or whatever they're called. I can't pronounce it right. The areas of where people live, recognized as their own city, but they kind of function like those, but they're very, very poor. And they don't. And a lot of the people who they do don't even. There are a lot of people who don't know about it have like grandsons who work there, but they don't even know about it until one of my fellow activists told them about that, and then they had to tell them in Spanish because because the organization in my area is mostly English based, and they rarely do have anything, if anything, on Spanish to where my community can understand.
Yeah. So that's a pretty par for the course thing within very large protests. For example, like Occupy Wall Street had ethnic ghettos, and because that's something that I remember doing. There was a lot of that.
Another thing is, I'm talking to a local activist. I heard there's a huge problem with performance activism in my area.
Yeah, so I mean, all that stuff, in my opinion, is just kind of the politics of politics. You know what I mean? Metapolitics. It's like this thing of like there are like our ideas, and then there are the people who do our ideas for perform our ideas in different ways and for different reasons. That's just human. That's just human little picadillos. When I did the Occupy Wall Street thing, like you call it out, right? Like you don't have to necessarily address it to the person's face immediately, but like you talk about it where you can talk about it, and you call it out when you can. Like I think it was
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like, these are pretty bad in my area, and there are a few that's good. Like, I've known a few who are native or native descent.
You mentioned that you were sorry about this, or about interrupting.
Go ahead.
So you were talking about people who don't speak Spanish. Who don't speak English. Fucking Freudian slip, apparently, or I don't know what the fuck you would call that.
And
I find that I have a similar situation at work, where there's like a whole different level of like social stratification, even beyond just racism and like, the divide between the workers and the managers. Like even the white workers, even like the few guys in the Aryan Brotherhood, nobody likes the fucking bosses. But then, you've got a huge chunk of the fucking like white laborers like very much look down on the guys who like look down on the Spanish guys, and then really look down on the ones who can't speak any English.
And workplace conservatives, right? Like sort of these middle-aged post Labor Democrat, post Reagan Democrat shitheads who are like super into being Irish and super into being German and fucking football games and stuff. I hate those guys, the little lords.
That's kind of
I in my own backyard. I've seen literally military troops guy because I'm just a few miles from the river.
Mm-hmm. Well, something that I learned at my job is that apparently before like apparently just a year or so before I had like actually been there, ICE had actually gone in and raided the place.
Wow.
Well, I was going to tell you that in my area, the local struggles are trying to stop the wall that goes to the butterfly and the wildlife sanctuary. Hold on. And the other one is to stop Potter Island, Brownsville. And I haven't been able to show up because I can't drive. But it's an ongoing issue directly caused some of it by Trump.
Oh yeah, that wall is like a fucking disaster no matter what way you cut it. I mean, it was ecological disaster. Like it became so popular, like of an idea that like there were enough white people who were like, yeah, seriously, we want a fucking wall. But then just think about like, nature doesn't care about your fucking borders. But I mean, even that, a lot of when people started settling it, when fucking people from Europe started settling and colonizing the area, they didn't make homes based off of the modern day borders. So, you're going to have people whose like houses get cut right through by that wall. You have a whole Monday completely fucking like, what are some fish going to be given Mexican citizenship and the others American citizenship? Like,
we're going to ask the fish for papers. That's it. Or check the fish's IDs.
This wall is just like, it's a complete logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like
I really don't think the wall's ever going to be built. I think it's going to remain a talking point for the right.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, you remember in order for Republicans to keep winning elections, there are certain things they just can't achieve because then there's no point to voting for them.
Didn't reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you heard in Ohio they're planning on giving the death penalty to people?
Vegan, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, you broke up a little.
Yeah, you did.
In Ohio, they're planning on giving people the death penalty for having an abortion.
Oh,
that's been floated, but number one, under the Constitution as it is, you can't pass that. This is like one of those protest pieces of legislation.
We have Justice Kavanaugh now, so
yeah, but even a very reactionary court is going to have a hard time passing the death penalty that's going to be really tough. They can't completely draw in crayon yes on the Constitution. They have to actually, there are words in the Constitution, so that they can bend and flex for certain things, and they won't. Remember this very, very carefully. Republican Supreme Courts soft pedal social issues and hard pedal economics. So they are really being put in there to defend profit and capital and stuff like that.
Yep.
For something extreme like that,
they see something as a potential threat to that capital. Sometimes they just kind of they'll soft pedal the death penalty for abortions, but then they'll find actually it's a logistical nightmare because some of these rich guys really don't want that to happen because a lot of them are
the money is not ideological in the social sense. Meaning that the people that own the Supreme Court, they are not tiller killers, so to speak. You know what I mean? So they're going to look at that and go, that's going to make us look uncivilized. So they'll give some they'll give some shitty alternative about jail time or something, or some kind of getting some kind of some kind of a criminal record for it. They won't give a go ahead to extermination of women who commit abortions. We're not. There's a country in South America that does something like that, right? Like, is it Chile that does some kind of incarceration for miscarriages or something?
We're gonna have to ask.
I'm trying to. I know that was I know there was a place where they were doing that, but I don't think it was.
There's
Chile.
more than one. There's more than one South American country that does incarceration for suspicious miscarriages, and I think that'll be the compromise amongst those people. Is they float this very harsh thing about the death penalty, and then the Supreme Court volleys back and goes, "No, but you can put them in jail or something like that."
Yeah, I think a recriminalization is definitely possible, but I don't think a death penalty will ever happen, just because logistically it's an unenforceable nightmare for the government.
Yeah, and it's too ideologically pure in a sense. Like the United States government are greedy, aristocratic pigs, but they know that they can't do something like that, or it'll upset. Capitalism is very much so premised on stability, and the kind of instability that would create would disrupt capitalism. So they'll go, "Oh no, well that's too much at the moment. That's too much." Now, if a proper reactionary like a fascist comes in and the Constitution goes out the window, then yes, I could see that happening. But like with the basic premise of liberal institutions still intact, like theoretically we're respecting the optics that we're respecting the Constitution, I don't think they'd be able to actually get that beyond a protest piece of legislation.
I don't think you're right about the Constitution.
What do you mean?
I don't think they actually give a damn. They just use it for their own political points.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong about that. I'm just saying that there are limits to how much you can just disregard the Constitution completely. You can't just go, tomorrow we're giving the death penalty for people that spill coffee on cops.
Other shit happening first.
Yeah. I just don't think we're there yet.
We have to already be in an even worse situation than we have now in order for that to actually be a reality.
Yeah.
True.
There are just too many people that would react with I think it would cause too much upheaval. There's still some kind of a premise of liberalism in this country. They're not going to just stand back, especially white bourgeoisie women are going to smack their conservative husbands in the head and go, "What the fuck did you do?" You know what I mean?
What the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah,
it's nice. Don't a lot of people didn't Kavanaugh? I'm just remembering things, so I could be wrong. That they don't those conservative people also pay for their mistresses' abortions anyway?
Yes.
So I think
it's very common.
So I don't think they would actually put forth that death penalty to anyone who gives abortion because of that.
Yeah, because then you would have to start giving the death penalty to doctors, and I don't think that they are going to start giving the death penalty to doctors who work for these big HMOs and stuff like that. Like Rose said, it's a nightmare it's a logistical nightmare.
True.
Oh yeah, how bad is that going to make America look? That's going to make America look like we're one of these countries that America talks about invading because we need to liberate them.
Yeah, these people still have to do, even Trump has to do business in polite society. They're not going to let something like that float. Under the American flag.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not that it's impossible either for that to happen here in America. That could potentially happen here in America.
There needs to be more social decay, and there needs to be more balkanization where Kentucky can pass their own constitution, and then you're going to get some real deep shit going on with all that kind of stuff with exterminating people for abortions and restoring segregation and slavery and stuff.
Oh, so another different note, problem with white nationalists organizing militias, and there was a documentary on, I can't remember what was it called, but is the German word for nuclear, something like that. Astro Wolf or whatever they're called. I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically a secretive Nazi extremist group that are planning on doing extremist, like, fucking bombings and assassinations and, like, leaderless.
You mean Adam Waffen?
Yes, those people, those fuckers.
They've always been around in some form or another. That's just a new brand. They've always been around. It's the same people that, the Order. Did you guys study about the Order?
No, I don't think so.
David, Jesus, I think it's David Lane is his name. In the 80s, there was a guy who authored the 14 words and the 88 precepts. That's why you hear people today, saying 1488. And he was a terrorist, and he was part of a neo-Nazi gang that exterminated political targets and committed bank robberies and stuff. So those people have always existed. They will always exist. All we can do is try to, push back against the kind of circumstances that enable people like that and enable them to.
Isn't it those people could become more powerful, or at least emboldened by this political climate we have?
Yeah, but they got emboldened by Reagan too. That's why I'm mentioning the Order. That was in the 80s. They always pop their little shitty heads up to fucking. Oh, we've got the president's on our side. Then they end up going to prison anyway for the rest of their lives. We'll get killed.
Actually, this is the first time that the Republican didn't even pay lip service to no, they're not with me, while secretly going yeah, they are with me, but I don't want people to know they're with me.
Oh no, they'll baby tap the alt-right, but Adam Waffen is its own thing, way beyond anything like the alt-right. And they've already been arresting Adam Waffen guys. They won't let that off the hook because again, that threatens stability, and stability threatens profit.
Right.
There's no way that President Trump's going to come out and go, I want to let Adam Waffen off the hook, guys.
Yeah, Adam Waffen makes the old right.
No, just let the white-collar criminals off. Am I right?
Right, correct.
Yeah, still big. If you're going to steal,
sure, you tanked the fucking economy, but we're just going to give you a slap on the wrist $1 million fine.
Oh, don't
worry. They arrested 3 or 4 Adam Waffen guys a couple of months ago because they were involved in a hate crime murder of a college student in California, right? No?
I don't know.
I saw a documentary on them, but they all right, and that's scary.
Oh yeah. The alt-right are politicians in a sense, or at least they're political hustlers or whatever. But the Adam Waffen are a proper, and who they're all. I'll never say that they're separate because it's all the same shit. Rise Against and Adam Waffen, and they're all the same. They go to the same pool party, so fuck them. But the remedy for them is all the same, which is to basically make it impossible for them to pushing back against austerity and the kind of policies that sort of create these disaffected, atomized people that they recruit.
Yo, Bronx Blogger, are you working on a video response to Cosmic Skeptic?
It's in the pile. You know what? If y'all want, I have.
Wait! What the fuck happened with Cosmic Skeptic? I need to fucking. We need to gab about drama and shit. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a YouTube channel.
Well, they made a video about Antifa, and you can all tell where that's going.
Yeah.
I've never actually watched this person. I think I might have. I've seen these videos there, but I immediately see Skeptic, and I'm not interested.
Yeah, I don't even know of this person, but it's I'm with you, Rose. It's just Skeptic.
They got Skeptic in the name, so I'm gonna fuck it. I'm gonna hold on that. I'm gonna say that I'm not interested in this channel.
I mean, honestly, if whenever YouTube recommends something, I'm really hesitant to click on Cuck Philosophy. I'm not sure, but then eventually I did click on one. It's no, their videos are at least well sourced.
Yeah, that's one of ours, I think, right? Cuck Philosophy, I think, is one of ours.
Yeah,
not an AIM-COM, but a lefty.
Yeah, I've seen them around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cosmic Skeptic is a perfectly valid target, but if you check out my channel, you'll find a playlist called Bronx Research, and there's several hundred videos in there. And that is where I sort of create a pile of subjects to come back to. And then part of it is You know, like when
you do much more analysis of other YouTubers than I do, where I just kind of sit and try to discuss, like I try to keep it limited, or not limited, but I try to keep most of the subjects on like real world, or I say real world, but like more on broad topics, much less than on fascist YouTube and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. My channel has specific targets. It's true.
Mine doesn't really have specific targets. I mean, I think like I did a couple back in the day, but like, you know, that's not for me. I'm not someone who's going to sit there and go through someone's channel just so I can respond to them. Like I've made the points that I've made to the people that I want to make it to. Fucking Bearing, like on multiple occasions, tried to invite me to go onto his channel and then fucking bailed last minute.
Yeah, he's a coward. But Vegan, your channel is also a polemic, right? Like it's about specific issues. It's about broad issues rather than specific mouthpieces.
Well, sometimes I go about Santa Ana specific local issues, but most of the time it's mostly broad. Yeah. And I tend to yell at a camera, as you all know.
I love your format. Let me say to you that I am quite ashamed of the how do I put this? My channel, the theory of what my channel was supposed to be and what my channel is now are different things. And it's just a byproduct of being in this space and being really mad about specific people and feeling like those people are being unchallenged. And that's why I do so much singling out, is because when it comes to these people, 9 times out of 10, a lot of the other people in this space have the thumb stuck up their ass. And they're preoccupied with fucking Bearing in 2018 or some other shitty garbage conservative, when they should be focusing on the fucking Red Ice TV. Or here's a poll. How many channels do you see responding to Red Ice TV?
I have yet to see one except yours.
I've literally seen yours respond to Red Ice TV.
Have you seen their subscriber count? It's over 250,000, and no one responds to them.
Wow.
So again, I'm not tooting my own horn as some kind of superhero, but the reason that I fixate on these specific people rather than what I really wanted to do, which was like Bronx. Because Bronx is in the name, and I wanted to focus on local stuff, but I'm also standing around and I'm seeing how much of these alt-writers come to power on a cult of personality, and that's what the specific targets are about. Are fuck this person, fuck the mystique around them. They're not beyond criticism and they're not beyond calling out. And that's where showing up on those right-wing streams came from, was people going, fuck you, Bronx, you just talk shit. Okay, I will show up here and I will speak to you to your face and rip you up to your face.
Oh, yeah, you're not any nicer to them in person, from what I've noticed. Like, you'll be civil, but you're not, like, nice to these people.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I've told other people... It depends on the person, right? Like it depends on, like, when I go out to eat Mike Enoch, I do it with my teeth. You know what I mean? But like, I've told other people, I said, you don't have to do what I do. You don't have to do what I do. All you have to do is push back. All you have to do is disagree. Because a lot of people have been like, oh well, it's an interview. No, an interview doesn't mean that you go, yep. That's not what an interview means. An interview means that you push back when people are wrong.
Cough, Dave Rubin.
Yeah,
but that's what it is. I mean, I've talked to people that are less like shilly than Dave Rubin, and they've, oh, Bronx, you judge me for platforming these people. And I'm like, number one, if you didn't platform them, I wouldn't fuck with you, okay? If you're mad about the call-outs. Number two, if you just platform them with a closed fist instead of an open hand, I wouldn't have to deal with you, because I'm not. You never see me do a video about, CNN interviewed Richard Spencer, because it's a little limp-wristed, but they closed their hand enough for me to go, okay. Like, for normies, the message that Richard Spencer isn't a good guy is clear enough. I'm not gonna go for CNN. But when Stephen Molyneux is on. Yeah, when Stephen Molyneux is on Dave Rubin and Dave Rubin is like, I'm taking my pants off, and Molyneux's like, wait a minute, he's like, I'm taking my pants off, bro.
Yeah, Molyneux, when someone goes on to be interviewed by Dave Rubin, they literally are promising to just show their whole ass.
Yeah,
And
Ruben's like, this is strawberry lube, and he's like, sir, this is an interview. He's like, you're right, it's an interview, bro. Take your fist out.
Oh, now when are we going to talk about Gavin McInnes?
Oh, fuck that guy.
That's so entertaining to see his balls shrivel up. Did y'all watch that? Did you watch the whole video? I had to watch every second of it.
I did not.
It would be way too much for me.
Yes, you need to watch Gavin McInnes' retirement from the Proud Boys. It reminds me of when my mom used to make me apologize for being mean to my sister, and I would be like, I don't like you, but like I'm totally gonna say I'm sorry, but I don't mean it because I don't like you and you're a jerk.
Well, yeah, you know, with Gavin McInnes, it's much more of a move to like it's much more an expediency thing than it is like. It's not like he's actually ideologically splitting from them. He just doesn't want to deal with the social consequences of being associated with the Proud Boys.
No, not just that, but he's making a premise that that somehow this is going to help the legal situation of the already caught cucks.
Okay, fucking. So I know this is a little off topic, but so, you know, anyone who's been looking at it on social media, I'm sure you've seen them, but I do want to show them real quick.
Sure.
This is your stream, so.
I guess I'm a cat now.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. I have friends that are furries.
I just did it because it's like it seems to be like the trans girl thing on YouTube, and I'm loving
it. I mean, cats are the anarchist animal anyway, so
it's true, very true.
And there's only a certain class of people, or just people that we kind of make fun of for like not liking cats. I like cats. I just am allergic to them. That's all.
Oh yeah, I'm allergic to them too, which is why I used to be like a super anti-cat, and then I'm like, you know, I was like, you know, why am I like I don't need to be so anti-cat, like,
yeah.
My boyfriend is allergic, but he likes cats a great deal.
Yo, Bronx Blogger, how did you have the stomach to handle all those reactionary content? Because I can barely handle the beginnings of your videos.
Oh, I mean, I've mentioned before on the channel that it's very sort of destructive for me. The research component of it is very, very mentally destructive and sort of spiritually discouraging. Yeah, like I used to do 3 videos a week. And, you know, I don't, not that I will never do 3 videos a week again, but I had to slow down a little bit because the amount of...
Yeah, you have to cut back so that you're not, like, so that you don't put yourself on this, like, path of self-destruction. Like, for a while, I was making sure to get a video out, like, every week or every 2 weeks. Like, I know, not as impressive as, like, that, but for me... it was always like a very stressful thing to try and get a video out. But at the same time, like I really wanted to get the videos out. Where now I'm kind of like, oh, now, you know, I think I can kind of get a schedule going, but you know, it's a very taxing.
I try to randomize now. I try to randomize the schedules for the sake of more so like, okay, what happened this week that I should speak to. Where back in the day, I used to just kind of rotate certain targets, and that meant I had to consume their content. I had to consume because I had to say something to the audience 3 times a week. So I had to consume Daily Show on a regular basis. I had to consume Red Ice TV, and after a while, like it emotionally becomes like,
like I look at the beginning of your videos sometimes, and I'm just like seething with like rage.
Yeah,
that's why I try not to go beyond 4 minutes. If you time it very carefully, I try not to ever go beyond 4 minutes before I respond. But I also don't do the like stop bearing type thing, because at least later on, I don't want people to turn around and go, "Oh, you took this person out of context." I said, "Motherfucker, that's one solid brick of your ideas. That is like complete. There's no cutting of sentences, none of that stuff. I let your person talk for nearly 5 minutes." and then I talk back. That's it. I don't chop people's stuff up that hard or any of that stuff. I just
don't chop up different sections of a video and then go like, I'm responding to this sentence, and this sentence.
No, because then that platform's too. I never want people to ever get the impression that I'm going to be like, because Varying again, right? But he's just an example. Like, I don't care about like how mawkish or corny these people are. That's a distraction. The most important thing is for me to chop the part of the video that contains them making their point and then responding to the point and moving on with it, because it's very tempting to be like, oh, this is corny or cheesy or any of that stuff. But I definitely try to spend as much time. And again, sometimes it's going through a 3-hour video and going, oh, these 4 minutes are the most. They bloviate so much that literally sometimes it's 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm like, wow. People are like, where'd you get this from? A 4-hour stream. This is the only 3 minutes that meant anything, and they were talking for 3 hours.
Like,
you look at right-wing content, it's always like you get these like very small chunks of time where they're really making like their main point.
Yes, there's 3 minutes of substance, and then there's a bunch of like fart sniffing of like, we're really right about all this shit, right? Aren't we right? Fucking libs suck. And I'm like, oh god.
Isn't it great that we're all having these discussions right now?
Yeah, I'm serious. They literally. This is a vegan. I'm sure you're well aware of this. This is Dave Rubinism in some extent of like, let's congratulate ourselves about talking about this fucking really radical fucking dissident right for like, we're talking about this. Oh god.
Don't you agree that the regressive ref is a big problem with the society? Don't you agree?
Oh yeah, it's literally softball answers. It's not. There's never any challenge as far as Dave Rubin goes. Dave Rubin would invite. I feel like Dave Rubin would before he obviously died, but fucking, before Manson was dead, I could imagine having Charles Manson and being like, well, the liberal media has like pinned these murders on you. What say you?
Don't you feel like you've been mischaracterized?
Manson admits everything he did.
Don't you feel like you've been mischaracterized by the mainstream media? I mean, you killed a couple of people, but you're not that bad of a guy. Your ideas are interesting, right?
Sargon certainly goes further with that stuff because he platformed Amos Yee. He platformed Bannon. He platformed a couple of other really, really, Steve Bannon. He recently did an interview with, and it was very kind of like ball sucky, and I was like,
How do
what's funny about the
like
Amos
Jimmy
Yee thing after his like, I think it was like a few weeks or a few months after he had the stream with Sargon, but someone just like walked up to him and smacked him in the face.
Vegan, you mentioned something really. I'm going to answer that real quick. Vegan, you mentioned something, but I couldn't hear you. You broke up a little.
Yeah, like how would we get people like Jimmy Dore on our side? Because I think Jimmy Dore is like the person, if anyone can be convincing to, or I think the rest are in lost causes.
Jimmy Dore is not on our side. Jimmy Dore is on Joe Rogan's side, and Joe Rogan is on the side of traditional masculinity crap. Yeah, he thinks we're creepy hippies. I understand why his passion is appealing. But the reason that he was on Joe Rogan is because he does subscribe to this very sort of butch leftism, you know what I mean? Of like, nothing soft. Let me speak to that very quickly. This whole thing, and again, I'm from the street, and I am very forceful. But the idea that I've cried on my channel before, I think once or twice. The idea that we're not going to show vulnerability or embrace any kind of femininity or empathy or any of that stuff is garbage. Because the premise is that women can't be forceful. That's ignorant and garbage.
Yeah. Well, considering the fact that there are 4 non-binary people in this chat.
Look at my leggings. Look at my leggings.
3 of them femme-aligned,
Well,
right.
We kind of clearly don't agree with that bullshit.
If you're referring to me, I'm not non-binary.
All right. Okay, 3 people who are non-binary.
Yeah.
Have you heard what Jesse Lee Peterson said to?
I should say 4
I
people
missed that.
who are not men.
Jesse Lee Peterson said that caring for the poor is, quote, feminine.
Yeah, but see, that's what's all connected here, because Kyle Kalinske is part of this problem of, and this is also very connected to
I stopped watching Kyle
leftism.
Kalinske in fucking high school.
Well, he's softened up a little bit on his anti-Ipolism. There was a time where he was very sort of a barnacle under the Sargon ship.
I think he even had Sargon on his fucking channel too.
Yeah, but I think
Sargon
that he noticed.
TJ.
Yeah, he noticed that it was hurting his cred as a leftist, and he was at least a little more prudent than someone like Angela Nagel, who's like, "Oh yeah, I love that the left hates me. I love it." So I mean, I will give him that, and I will give him that he's a little more digestible than some of the really, like, Jason how do you pronounce it? Somebody help me. How do you pronounce his name? Yeah, he's more digestible than someone like that, who's like a complete sort of disgusting. I don't mean aesthetically. I just mean in terms of his rhetoric. Is sort of a disgusting.
His rhetoric is absolutely like disgusting.
Yeah. So Kalinske is boorish, but he's not as like nuclear garbage as somebody like that Maoist guy. But again, it's so stupid when Red and Black is a feminized movement, and it's about power, and it's about struggle, and it's about the love of a mother. And caring of a mother figure. Red revolutions are supposed to be about the power of the mother figure. We're the fucking left. We're not patriarchs. We're not paternalists. We're fucking raging, heart-eating, finger-breaking mothers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Take down Jesse Lee Peterson. We're gonna eat your heart.
The point of this the point of this movement is that the mother is the avatar of our politics.
Yeah. I mean, even earlier today,
that reminds me of a song called from Nestor Magno, not Nestor Magno, but Anarchy Mama some Ukrainian song. You ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
I listen to that shit a lot.
Link it in the chat if you get a chance. Link it in the chat if there's a YouTube video of it, like an adaptation of it. I'm sure somebody's somewhere saying.
I will look for that after the chat.
Yeah.
Just because if I go around looking for it, editing it now, there's a very high possibility that it'll just kick me out of the chat for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Looking at the page long enough. Yeah. Or you were looking at a different tab for too long, so we've kicked you out of here.
Yeah.
That takes me back to a lot of the skeptics are disaffected Occupy Wall Streeters. And it is specifically a disaffection of, I don't want a movement that's run by women. Fuck off.
Screw those people. Even in like earlier today, Non-Compete had an interview with like Sarah Zed, but later on is like people would mention Jason Unruh, and Non-Compete doesn't know, American Johnson doesn't know about Jason Unruh. Okay, but then once people mention Jason Unruh is a transphobic, it's like if Jason Unruh is transphobic, then fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the guy.
He is a meme at this point, but that doesn't mean that he can't. He's one of those memes like Sargon. You acknowledge it, he's a meme, but you gotta keep on bonking him on the head, or he'll float back up.
I mean, the thing about Unruh.
Look what I got.
Hey, Piper's trying to talk real quick.
The thing about Unruh is that he doesn't really have a base that like isn't ironically subscribed to him. Besides, like maybe some 13-year-olds on the internet.
Yeah, he's a 14-year-old kid's idea of what communism is, as learned through like Stalinist memes that weren't supposed to be taken seriously, and just kind of like internalizing this very sort of butch, like those action movies where everything's a figurative penis to conquer your enemies.
It's essentially an aesthetic communism where like. Communism to these people is hammer and sickle profile pictures on the internet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's basically all it is.
Posers! Yes, we're finally confronting posers.
Yep. You know what? You can't talk about posers without bringing up ANCAPs.
Fuck off.
ANCAPs. I'm trying to think. I did debate an ANCAP one time, and it was just so. It was so. It was even worse. Yeah, it was even worse than debating fascists because at least I kind of like I know what I'm dealing with a fascist, whereas ANCAPs don't understand what their own philosophy is. They don't, meaning like fascists are cynical, right? Like their philosophy is death and destruction. And if you navigate them properly, they'll expose that, like, because they can't help themselves. ANCAPs don't understand their own position. They're just kind of like, their position is like, I want like this thing that's impossible. And you're like, no, you can't. It's like debating a creationist where you're like, I don't know how to oppose this because it doesn't exist.
I was in a hangout with Humane Mind once, and after that hangout, I'm never doing that again. I don't want any contact with Humane Mind. No, screw that guy.
I actually spent years debating them on the internet, ANCAPs, and the thing about them is, their politics are essentially based on like, well, it's either it's either kind of white collar guys who would benefit from austerity and deregulation, or which is primarily like, they talk about individual liberty and all that crap, but that's more or less just a cover for, well, we want the capitalist market to be as unrestrained as possible.
They want feudalism back in the purest sense. They want
it's not really feudalism. I don't think that's correct. Okay. It's just, it's essentially just neoliberalism taken to the extreme. It's free market economics where the market is the, prime mover of all things and the highest.
But the invisible hand of the market, liberty. Piper.
Yeah, but it's even it's even beyond minarchism because they kind of want, minarchism sort of creates, at least admits that the government has to some extent create the market. Whereas ANCAPs literally want a spontaneously forming capitalism.
It's not really that. Anybody who subscribes to that kind of economics, kind of Austrian free market economics, none of them think that the government creates them. I think that because that's true. But
but their philosophy at least understands it because they want courts to exist. They want cops to exist. So even if they don't acknowledge it in the front of their brain, at the back of their mind, they're like, wait a minute, we can't get rid of all of it.
Right. Well, I suppose, but they think that the market is something that exists regardless. They think that basically, like, the crux of the problem with their whole worldview is they think that the capitalist economy is just when I give you a pen for a pencil. And so in that sense, we don't have to have the government facilitate any of that because that's just natural human behavior.
Right. So, they're essentialists. They're always essentialists.
Right. So basically, like, their point of view is either they're very rich people who, like, maybe are small entrepreneurs and, they would benefit from deregulation of the economy. And so, they subscribe to that, and at the same time, they think they're very edgy, kind of dissident figures in modern society that's so regulated by government, according to them.
Yeah, but a lot of their tropes are also just rebranded monarchism, divine right, job creators, blah blah blah. Like, it's just basically that's why I said feudalism it reminds me of a lot of the.
Even Hans Hermann Hoppe said that monarchism would be preferable to democracy.
Hoppe is like a really specific case, though. Like, I've never, like, Rothbard is not the same thing as Hoppe.
Yeah, but a lot of ANCAPs, especially the Dappertonites, really love Hoppe.
Well, that's the thing. Like, a lot of ANCAPs just basically are, like, their inclinations were towards reactionary politics, so most of them have gotten swallowed up by the alt-right because ANCAPs only existed on the internet. And the alt-right mostly exists on the internet, so it kind of just gobbled up anarcho-capitalism. There are some anarcho-capitalists, actually, that take a stand against that and say, no, the alt-right is against individual liberty and it's for state control of the economy. We don't want that. But
theoretically, everything with the alt-right, again, is theoretical. Like everything that they kind of talk about is, like, theoretical, and then when they actually bring it out into the real world, it just kind of is, it's just a wood chipper. You know what I mean? Like they're like, "Welcome to your new government, sir. This is a wood chipper," and they just start putting people in there. This is something that's been repeated multiple times by Chris Cantwell, and I'm like, this guy. I always tell people, you see Cantwell, he's the true Puritan of the alt-right, because all he does on his show is scream about who he wants to put in the wood chipper. I'm like, this guy's a fascist, baby. There's no political pretense. There's no nothing. I hate the world. The world betrays me. I want to put everyone in a wood chipper.
Speaking of that, I'm assuming that, I'm assuming you know this, but I still find it really funny that, a while ago he got fucking sprayed with mace in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And someone actually sent me a video where they called Christopher Cantwell and left a voicemail saying, "Got milk?" after he got.
Who sprayed you like this? I don't know. Commies.
He refuses. What's funny is that all his shit talking about we just want to spread our ideas, free speech, blah, blah, blah. He refuses to debate leftists. There were a couple of times where I discussed with people behind the scenes.
Didn't he also say something about if we have to kill a few people, like
yeah, but again, that's what makes him and Emily Yukis, Pistachio Girl. If you dig her up, I think I mentioned her once or twice. The White Sharia Girl that I did a video on.
Yeah,
those are the real. Yes. That she wants women to be enslaved and stuff.
Oh.
That's the true face of the alt-right. When you strip away the politics, the alt-right are fascists, and fascists basically just want to instate slavery and murder. And slavery and murder. What else you got? Murder and slavery. That's it.
Well, yeah, and it's also always under the guise of some fictitious traditional time.
Yeah, or some other bullshit about we're going. One is we're going backward, and one is we're going forward, and they're both bullshit. Sometimes they'll present it as progressive to do it. Sometimes whatever you want. Oh, you're conservative? Oh, we're going back to traditional value. Oh, you're progressive? Bernie Sanders would have wanted women to be slaves too, bro.
Well, Bernie Sanders did have a bit of a misogyny, or quite a bit of a misogyny.
Sure, but compared to these people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think that he's alt-right. Obviously. One, because he's Jewish, I would never compare him to a Nazi, but, Oh,
but there are Jewish alt-righters. There's Luke Ford. There's Frame Games. Yes, Frame Games. He's Jewish. They're Israeli morons. Not Israelis. They're Americans who want to do... They're Jew hoteps of okay, you take your ethno state and I'll take mine. And then they go, your ethno state is going to be in the dumpster behind Dairy Queen. Oh, shit.
Well, I'm not saying that there aren't Jewish alt-righters or that that never was a thing. Just usually it's not a good idea to just compare a Jewish person to a Nazi, though. Especially
Oh no, Bernie Sanders! No, Bernie Sanders! It's not because he's a Jew; it's because he's a leftist.
Yeah.
But if it comes to somebody like Dave Rubin, I'll call him a fascist all day long.
Oh, fascist, yes. Nazi. It's usually where you start going and if you
Oh no, that's why I said alt-righter. That's why I said alt-righter. They are Jewish alt-righters, but I would never use the word Nazi. Nazi is a white people thing.
What I'm saying is that I specifically would never compare a Jewish person to a Nazi.
That's a good principle. I generally will use either alt-righter or reactionary, one of those things. Nazi is specifically about white power in the Aryan sense and stuff like that. It's a fair delineation. I'd give you that.
Wait, Dave Rubin's a fascist?
No, well, it's a bit of hyperbole, right? Yeah, he's a sympathizer. But meaning, I know that it gets his goat, so I'll, if when I get his ear, I'll because he doesn't deserve goodwill or charity or benefit of the doubt or any of that stuff of here's what I'll say. There are certain collaborators and sympathizers that I might as well call you a fucking fascist. You know what I'm saying? If I would call you an executioner if you were the guy who sharpened the blade, you know what I mean? So I might as well call you a fucking execution. You did everything but the head chop. So I guess between ourselves, it's worth making. But when you're confronting your enemy, light them up. Go all the way. It doesn't matter. It's not worth making distinguishes for making making these distinctions for sake of sparing their feelings.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not thinking of making these distinctions for their feelings' sake, but more just being conscientious of like how that could harm, like it could harm Jewish people on the left to compare a Jewish man to a Nazi.
Yes, that's when we're speaking to each other earnestly. But as far as when I'm engaging these people, I don't. For example, Mike Enoch is not a neo-Nazi in the formal sense, right? He's alt-right, blah blah blah. But I call him a skinhead. He's like, I'm not a skinhead, bro. And I don't care when I'm talking to him. I don't care. I know he's not a skinhead. He knows he's not a skinhead. Who cares? Eat shit.
Yeah.
That's the only sense that I would say that is like fucking, eat shit in that circumstance.
He definitely agrees with white nationalism, though. Like, that's not.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but the irony of him being Slavic is that's fascinating. Like, for him to be like, Hail Hitler, I'm like, he probably killed your grandma, bro. You need to take it easy.
I heard about, from friends, like in my real life, I actually heard about their comrades too that I met in real life, which is how I've gotten back into activism and stuff like that. But I had actually heard one of them read a thread or saw a thread on like, I don't think it was Stormfront, but it was like it was a thread of white nationalists, Georgian white nationalists, and other white nationalists arguing over whether or not Stalin was white.
Yeah.
And they came to the compromise that it didn't matter. That it didn't matter if he was white because he was corrupted by the Jews. Basically, Georgian white nationalists were pissed at the idea that like Stalin wasn't white because they're like, hey, Stalin's Georgian. We're Georgian.
Oh yeah, but they changed their construct of white depending on what time of day it is.
Yeah.
At some times of the day, white Mexicans are white. At other parts of the day, they're not. Sometimes it's just skin color. Oh, you can tell by seeing. You could tell by seeing. And then other times of the day when you go, oh well, this Jewish guy looks white. Hold on a second, there, pal. Let's talk about ethnogenetics.
I think that I've had that like come to me a few times because like anyone who's seen my hair knows that it like is super curly and like that usually catches some like eyeballs because they're like, well, it's very possible you could be white, but like, but let me really get in close on that hair.
when they actually, before they take power, they have, as if you study the history of the SA and the other the little street gangs and stuff, they included gay people. They always include tokens and shit at the beginning of the revolution, and then at the end of the revolution they throw you in the oven with everyone else. They always
have token Jewish people in his like voter base.
His biggest supporter was a Jewish journalist that he then had executed when Hitler said, no, you have to liquidate your Jews, and Mussolini was like, cool, bro, no problem. And then listen, there is no group that is exempt from the death cult of fascism. Other Nazis, other white people, non-white people, dogs, cats, amoebas, everyone is vulnerable to extermination but the leader, and even the leader himself if they feel like it. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just...
The movement decides that this leader's not working for us. Let's put him through the meat grinder.
Yeah.
How do we stop the eco-fascist movement?
That's an interesting question.
What is that like with the golden one basically saying that like veganism is good and like keeps you like pure with the environment?
He's not a full blown eco-fascist. The eco-fascist is my understanding. The eco-fascist is that they're a militia that's mixed with like veganism and loving trees and shit, right?
Yeah, they're
basically talking about like
basically
like full blown like
co-opt ecology and they use the idea of population reduction as a way to blame brown people for the environment.
By the way, I wasn't saying that the golden one was an eco-fascist. I was just like saying, okay, in the scenario where fucking the golden one goes full vegan and starts talking about how white people must like live in harmony with their environment. Like, is that like what ecofascism is?
Oh yeah, to the 10th degree. Like these guys, if you watch their stuff, they're very obsessed with
blood and soil.
yeah, and with militias defending white women and trees and murder and trees and veganism and trees. Like the way that the alt-right proper is obsessed with statues.
Poke some trees.
Yeah, these dudes are totally like they're a substitute for the statues is trees, and the idea that they're gonna live in the woods with a white woman and the smell of pine is an aphrodisiac and all that stuff, and they're gonna raise a bunch of like kids with dirt on their feet.
Lumberjack Nazis. Wow.
yeah. But what makes them different is that they're predominantly European. They're militia people from the States, but in Europe.
Ecofascism is basically just fascism has a tendency to co-opt certain issues
like deep ecology
that many people, I mean, even people on the left kind of subscribe to. Fascists try to co-opt certain concerns that people have.
But it's completely disingenuous too, right? I mean,
in the sense of ecofascism, it's fascists trying to co-opt like environmentalism. For instance,
yes.
a bunch of there were a few Earth Liberation Front people who were released from jail and started hanging out with white nationalists. That's kind of.
Mm-hmm. No,
but in the end, the goal is fascism. The goal is fascism.
The Earth Liberation Front is, by the way, it was like they were like a group of environmentalists who like basically caused some millions of dollars in damage to.
They're the heroes.
To a bunch of environmentally destructive companies.
They're heroes until they became Nazis. Some of them did.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a couple of them that did that.
Yeah, but this is like Nazbol and shit, where Nazbol keep fucking up these ML Facebook groups because several people come to me with like, that their ML Facebook group was destroyed by Nazbol's coming in and saying honestly, they're the true leftists, blah blah blah.
I feel like a lot of like internet Stalinists get called Nazbols because they have reactionary politics, but to be honest, Stalinism like has reactionary politics in the first place. Like if
but these people were proper Nazbol, meaning that there are some of these groups that have now decided that they want to include Nazbols as part of dialectical materialism or some shit. Like it's like a sort of a they're drinking the Kool-Aid. They're taking Nazbols at face value and trying to integrate them into these reactionary left political groups.
Don't forget about anarchism. The villain, the ultimate villain.
Well, so fucking a lot of internet Stalinists just get called Nazbols because they're like homophobic or transphobic or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Like the Soviet Union killed and imprisoned gays to the max. So like, I mean, Stalinism is like it's inherently reactionary, not just in a economic.
Yeah, but see, that makes them vulnerable.
It's reactionary in a social way too. I mean,
that's what makes them vulnerable to infiltration. I always tell people you have to go all the way, meaning that you got to go all the way left. You have to have nothing in common with Nazis, because if you have one syllable in common with them, they will co-opt you. I can share DMs of a particular internet Nazi who was celebrating that. For example, Sargon's liberalist posted a meme celebrating Bolsonaro. He said, great, we'll co-opt them further. Do you understand? You cannot share one molecule of philosophy with them, or they will use that as a backdoor and go, me too, I also.
Yeah, but some of them try to co-opt anarchism in the name of
does that mean? Well, yeah, because they basically are. Well, what they're co-opting is like the anti-IDPOL form of anarchism.
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed. How can that exist?
Really
but just for white people.
There isn't an anti-IDPOL form of anarchism. I mean, there's like brocialists and manarchists, but they're not like
That's what I mean. Manarchists, like
that's so absurd. That's like an ANCAP.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh my god. See, brocialism, I can get it because socialism includes hierarchies. To say you want to maintain patriarchy and anarchism, you're tearing a hole in the fabric of space.
Mm-hmm.
Hear that, Proudhon? Manarchy, Proudhon.
Well, I've always come back to also with that stuff because sometimes I remember one of these Nazis kept going, "Oh, Proudhon's your prophet," blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about anybody. I don't give a fuck about Malcolm X. I don't give a shit about Drake. I don't give a shit about anybody. If they were whatever, homophobes, misogynists, then you can throw them out with the bathwater because the ideas don't belong to them. They're just people. They didn't invent these ideas. They were just proponents of them. And if they were garbage, problematic people, then throw them in the toilet and flush them. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
But so many people on the left, not anarchists necessarily, they're Malcolm X, he had some. No, flush him in the toilet. Flush him in the toilet. Flush anybody in the toilet that because then it gets brought back on you. Oh, MLK wouldn't have accepted gay. Good, fuck him. Flush him on the toilet. Who cares?
I will say though, MLK actually did accept, at least to some degree, accept gay people, considering the fact that one of the other leaders of the civil rights movement, who just kind of he never gets mentioned.
Yeah, Bayard Rustin. Yes, but what I'm saying is, if someone comes to you and tells you, well, MLK wouldn't have, then tell them that your principle is more important than that person.
I'd tell them, well, if that was the case, fuck him.
Yeah. Worshipping these corpses is not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah. People who didn't, you can't just tell me that, oh, hey, this person didn't go all the way, so you can't go all the way.
Right.
Or you can't try to go all the way.
Correct. The whole point of left anarchism is that we go all the way. I mean, there have been several friends that I've lost because they weren't willing to go all the way. Oh, I still have this little thing, then fuck off, man. I have this little liberal position. No. That's not the point of this.
Green anarchism goes to furthers because we include speciesism and eco domination.
Right.
So
so
why aren't you a green anarchist? Why aren't you a green anarchist, Bronx blogger?
I was a vegan for 6 years. I hold those principles. When I'm talking about someone who is willing to, I don't defend meat eating. I don't make any kind of, I judge people on the positions they stump for. And some people stump for these things where they're like, oh, I'm not going to move on this thing. That's what I mean. I was, like I said, I was a vegan for several years. I have some health problems that make it difficult to have, predominantly fibrous diet. But I still hold the same principles I did as a vegan about the agency of animals. You cannot defend. You can eat meat without defending meat, just like you can participate in capitalism without defending it. The problem is defending it. And if you're an anarchist and go, oh, well, this is why we should eat meat. No, fuck off with that.
That's true, Bronx blogger. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, just because we don't, do we really have, we don't have as much agency under this system as we should. But all we can do is say, okay, I'm going to make the case against it, even though I can't necessarily opt out as much as I would like. But I've seen people make cases and be on the left and be like, oh no, well, I have this liberal position. I'm like, well, you're a liberal then, man. You can't split the hair.
Honestly, I get a lot of transphobic shit from other vegans.
As far as my liberal positions go, as far as I know, I don't really have these liberal positions. But people, if someone points it out, and sometimes I may be like, sometimes I may call bullshit on it if it's a really bullshit if the person saying that my position is liberal is really splitting hairs on something I said, I'm going to be like,
of course. Yeah, because you do have that brand of anarchists where not advocating the guillotine for everything. The liberal, that's, those are outliers, but they're out there.
Yeah, but let's not advocate for guillotines, though.
We're not supposed to be about executing people, like not in earnest. No, we're not supposed to be about executing.
Yeah, the execution, no. We want to avoid as much death as we reasonably can.
Yes, exactly.
We're supposed to only do that kind of stuff in self. I mean, you can't guillotine somebody in self-defense, but I'm just saying, like,
no,
revolutionary violence within our end is supposed to be like.
No. Now I'm trying to imagine someone like wielding a guillotine, like in like Bloodborne and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can't pull out a guillotine when someone tries to rob the street. What do you mean?
Come here, come place your head here.
Yeah.
Just stay.
And I don't, I don't pull out the whooping stick every time someone makes a meme with a guillotine. That's, it's problematic, but. As long as I know the person is shit talking, I try not to pull out the cane for that. But I always, when we go behind the scenes, I go just to make sure you were memeing, right? Like I don't want to be, I don't want us to be on the same thing, and you really want to chop people's heads off. That's not my deal.
Yeah, honestly.
Usually for me, it's like an exaggeration where it's like, I don't actually want I don't actually want to line Congress into, like, in rows of 15 on a guillotine to chop 15 heads off at once.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to joke about it because, I do want to, I want to overthrow them,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Not overthrow them. That probably is a bad, like, terminology, bad way of putting it. But, you want to end, like, the power that they have, basically kind of, destroy the system. And, they're going to have to go. And, some of it may involve death to some extent. That's revolutions are always bloody. There's no.
Yeah.
But see, to me, the thing with executions is that they are not in the heat of conflict.
Oh yeah, they're not.
An execution involves staging.
You're right.
You pull up a conquered enemy, and once you do that, you are setting a precedence in your society that will never be undone. Which is that we kill people even after we conquer them, even when they're no longer a threat.
Oh yeah, it's literally saying, okay, we went out of our way to get this person who, either gave up, surrendered, or was subdued in some way.
Yeah.
And now we're just publicly executing them. No, that's like that's a sadistic fantasy.
Yeah, I mean that's what again, like for example, the Cuban Revolution, stuff like that. Yeah.
I feel
there's gonna be some shock humor. Like there's definitely gonna be some shock humor about the guillotine, but
sure.
If we're making we're not like if we, realistically, we're not going to break out guillotines because that's like, that in itself would be like a form of savagery that I don't think should ever be entertained.
Yeah.
It's inherently counter-revolutionary, and it starts the same nihilistic cycle that fascists start when they take power of like performative violence, and people are looking to you and they'll start emulating that. Then anybody they disagree with, they're like, yo, chop his head off too.
Yeah, I would only joke about it, just like joking about eating the rich. Go ahead, Deacon.
Honestly, I feel like the left, a lot of people, more people than we think, would actually be for guillotine people. Understand?
Yeah, but they're not our comrades, and we don't need to. The saddest thing in history about our people is that when the revolution comes, the certain parts of the left then turn to us and go, "Fuck off, hippie! We're gonna get revenge," and that's why those forms of leftism don't last. Is because sort of politics of revenge starts a cycle that you can't really end. Then one day it'll be your turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's like the French Revolution.
One of my favorite memes about the guillotine was, "Oh, this boy can fit so many." It was slap.
I saw that one.
Like problematic fantasies.
Yeah. But that's a good example. The French Revolution was unsustainable because of all these like reigns of terror and shit like that. You can't build, you cannot fertilize a tree with blood. You just can't.
Well, not only that, but like the French Revolution had like free municipalities and communes that are fighting against the nation state. And the assemblies were threatened by the free assemblies of citizens, so they try to crush them and those same people were put in the guillotine. The same city, even Paris had, despite having 1 million people and shit technology and can only fast as a horse, managed to do a democratic confederalism, or at least their version of it. Like Bookchin did not invent the idea; he just pointed it out that was common in ancient Greece, or even throughout European and American history.
I mean, Bookchin never really talked about democratic confederalism in the first place.
True, I mean,
it gets associated with him because Öcalan, who's the
Hey, Piper, your volume's a little bit low. Do you think there's anything you can do about it?
Sorry.
Can you hear me now? All right.
Yes, I can. Yes,
I can hear you better now.
So the democratic confederalism wasn't Bookchin's idea. It gets associated with Bookchin because people think that Abdullah Öcalan, the actual theorist of democratic confederalism, got everything he thought from Bookchin,
which isn't true.
True.
Mm-hmm.
It was a misnaming error. But yeah, like that's where his inspiration of libertarian municipalism is, and I think that'll be the strategy we should go use. And then Piper can do her syndicalism. I can do libertarian municipalism, and then together we can strike the system down.
And I'm gonna get high and throw a brick through a Starbucks window.
Yeah, smashy, smashy.
Is it gonna be in that order?
Yeah. There's so many remedies, there's so many remedies to our problem. As long as we don't depart the basic principles that sort of, and again, it's tough for us because, a lot of other groups will go, throughout history, you guys always get, and my answer to that is, okay, look, I'd rather get killed than depart the basic principles of my revolution for the sake of just maintaining power. I'd rather just, might as well kill me, dude. Because then it's not my revolution anymore. It's whatever. Like if Stalinists want to kill me or whatever, it's fine. Because there was some Nazbol who was like, "Oh, if we get you, we'll kill you," and the Stalinists were like, "Whatever, man, kill me. I'm not gonna do it your way."
That I think is a big point. Which something I've seen a lot is that a lot of tanky Twitter will talk down to anarchists who themselves are people of color, and assume that there's someone who lives in the West. Like I saw one specifically with a Nicaraguan anarchist arguing with, yes, he was black, or no, they were black.
Yes.
Sorry, they were black, but they were claiming, or they were calling this other person a Western leftist, saying, "Oh, sometimes we leftists in the West tend to, criticize these regimes for like whatever." And it's like the guy's like, "I live in Nicaragua. I am Nicaraguan." Like,
yeah, that's another myth, is that there's not a progressive left in third world countries. It's usually a Westerner saying that. It's always someone like Unruh who's like, "Oh, I'm a fucking third worlder." I'm like, bitch, there's more progressive leftists in the third world than in the first world. You're a product of the intolerance of the first world. Okay?
Irony.
Well, Unruh's point is actually that like the revolutionary potential of the working class only exists in the third world. That's his argument.
That's absurd.
His argument is not that he himself is a third worlder. I mean, he recognizes that he's not. And that's actually the kind of crux of his politics, because I'm of the opinion that he's a quote-unquote third worldist, because that means he doesn't have to actually do anything. He can just make his stupid YouTube videos.
We live in a post-communist era. So right now there's only one world. There is one capitalist world. And the capitalism, there are no nations, there are no peoples, there are no nothing. We are just subjects of McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Taco Bell, whether you live in Saudi Arabia or the Bronx or Philadelphia or Florida, you watch
Boston.
MTV and you fucking eat Dairy Queen, and you're this myth of the undeveloped third world. It's just, again, except for a couple of tribes living in the deepest of the Amazon, everyone, even in these impoverished third world countries, is a corporate subject.
Or even those tribes that killed that missionary.
Exactly.
That was
The Sentinelese. Which, I had been reading articles that never explicitly stated it, but I'm like, wait, what they're describing, this sounds like North Sentinel Island.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, because I'm like thinking about this, I'm like, wait, no, this could be really bad if they're talking about the North Sentinelese, because there's only like 50 of them left, and, this guy just, with diseases that they've never been exposed to, tries to preach to them.
Yes.
Yeah, sure, he was killed, but he could have still infected them, which,
True.
means that even with the death of this missionary, some, asshole who had to fucking preach the word of the Bible has just, basically threatened a genocide because he thought it would be a good idea to preach to people that he doesn't even know how to fucking communicate with.
Correct.
But the Bible can
idea.
The Bible actually commands people to preach it, though, so it's actually a biblical kind of thing.
Okay, I'm not saying that it isn't a biblical thing.
Understand the Lord.
But, it's like, wait, so you're going to go to this tribe that's the last completely uncontacted, well, even then they're not completely uncontacted, but they're the only tribe categorized as uncontacted by the modern world.
Yes.
They had never been exposed to these new world diseases.
Yeah.
Or new world diseases. They haven't been exposed to, any modern diseases.
Yes.
These are people, just the idea of even going and trying, this, it's a very destructive idea.
Yeah, but see, it's a byproduct of his ideas. It's not incidental. It's the hubris that Christianity feeds you as a proselytizer of you're the one who's going to bring the word of God. You know what I mean? It's because of his philosophy that he sort of felt entitled to show up there, because he feels.
Yeah, he actually believes he's doing a good thing, and the Bible again commands people to spread the word by any means. Not any means, but spread the word.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even say he was innocent, because of course Christians always sort of present their hubris as innocent. I would say that
that he was innocent. I'm just saying that he was a moron the whole way.
Oh no, but I'm saying them portraying him as like this John Birch type pure Christian missionary. And I'm like, no, he's a fucking pig.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pig. He should never have gone there. He should have never assumed that he had the right.
Yeah, there's literally a 3-mile exclusion zone around that island.
Yes.
And
but because he's a Christian, he felt entitled.
Because he felt entitled to preach the word of God to some people who, again, this guy was an Asian American man, so he spoke English.
Yes.
He might have spoken a second language, but he didn't speak within the same language family of the Sentinelese.
Correct.
Therefore,
it wasn't even close.
Not communicated if he wanted to.
Yes. But again, it's so tempting to the hubris that's taught to these proselytizers, whether they're fucking car salesmen or Christians. This idea of you need fresh soil. You need to prove to everybody that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so destructive. Anyway, listen.
Yeah, we've been going on.
Yes, I've been having a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank all the comrades. I want to thank for inviting me on this program. I would definitely be interested for us to make this more of a regular thing. I think that the future of this platform is streaming, and I would love to get together an ANCOM red and black chat like this more often. I can't do it on my own channel because my streaming is currently restricted because a bunch of Nazis false flagged a Holocaust denial video I put on my channel.
Are you saying
green and black?
Are you saying that I am at the forefront?
Yeah. All the anarchists together, except ANCAPs. I would love for all of us to be together more often and have these revolving panels and all that stuff. Geek, I'm glad to finally speak to you person to person. We've only known each other really on Twitter.
Yep.
It's been wonderful. Vegan, you're great. You're always been a great comrade, and I've always been happy to share this platform with you. Piper, nice to meet you. Do we follow each other on Twitter?
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay. If you get a chance later,
I would like to point out that I have had both you and Piper in a chat at the same time before.
Oh yeah,
was this
subscriber? The subscriber.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that was so long ago.
Oh yeah, it was over a year ago, if I'm correct.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah, Piper. My @ is Bronx Blogger NYC. So just
because you're
follow
original
me or send me a message or something. Yeah, I got nukes.
I'll follow you.
Yeah, because I try to,
I'm planning on unblock Piper to also myself.
Yeah. The peace, love, and I'm thankful for this chat, and we'll catch up again. Okay.
All
right. Hey, before you go,
everyone,
were you implying that I'm ahead of the curve on the platform?
I think that you're one of the great anarchist voices. You predate me on this platform, and you're one of the people that gave me courage to make videos of many comrades that I was aware of. I think the first time I came aware of your channel, somebody did a response to you. I think it was TJ.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioning that you found my channel because of the Drunken Peasants responding to...
I found out that he actually responded to you and at one point to Libertarian Socialist rants.
Yes.
And his response was shit. So
well,
I don't think he understands our ideology at all. I think that he thinks that we're communists in like the Lenin sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
TJ's
the Drunken Peasant response to everything is XD, pee pee poo poo, drink beer.
Yeah. It starts and ends with these assholes, and it's just kind of like anyone that chafed TJ's nipples that day is, you're pussy, man. That's his best. And it's sad because when during YouTube 1.0, I used to watch TJ stuff. I never supported him politically, but he used to be good for a chuckle, and now he's just become a gross tragedy of a man.
That was kind of the thing, is that I really was only into his channel because he was an asshole, and it made me chuckle a bit.
I think the majority of people followed him because he probably made them laugh with his cursing and loudness. I don't think anybody...
that's basically what
the dude isn't taken seriously by any other political YouTubers, whether they're on his side or politically or not. He's considered kind of a dude that doesn't really know what he's talking about and just flaps his gums on camera. I mean...
Yeah, but I think also a lot of us presumed he was way further left than he actually was.
Yeah,
I think the fact that he was against creationism and against Fox News and ostensibly for Obama. I think when the stupor of the Obama era that we were all entranced by to one extent or another, when that finger snapped, the liberals realized they hated us. And we didn't realize they hated us because, again, most of us came to his content during the era where liberals liked lefties. And then came the big backstab of 2015. Like Trump. What?
I remember TJ Kirk back on when he was on Channel Awesome as the distress watcher too, between 2007 and 2009 and stuff like that. And so it seemed now it's just
his distress watcher videos were fucking horrible. They were so bad.
I mean, again, Channel Awesome is
no effort into them whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah, but again, the stupor of Channel Awesome during that era
said that most of those videos he like phoned in.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the situation with Channel Awesome at the time.
Yeah, but so many of us were into Channel Awesome during YouTube 1.0 because you got to think about the marketplace at that time. And then now when they melted down, I was like, oh, like it was just kind of like TJ was like, oh, I thought this was better than it was. No, it was just what was available at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I just remember that like Doug Walker just recently on a video just said SJW, and so I was like, not surprising.
Yeah, and like Cinema Sins and all that stuff. There was a time where YouTube was a different thing. And the thing is, I think, is that you didn't take it seriously. So even when it was problematic, you were like, oh, this is YouTube. This is like public access TV where like you can't even realize when things are being promgy and goofy. And then YouTube was like, oh no, wait a minute, TJ serious? Fuck off.
Oh yeah, I still like, so when YouTube first was like a thing, like when I first started like really watching YouTube, I think I was like 10 years old. It's been over a decade at this point that like I've known what YouTube is. I still remember some of the 1.0 days when basically I got on YouTube to watch Niga Higa, which also from what I've seen turned out to be pretty anti-SJW in itself. So,
Yes. I first got into YouTube while I was literally working at the ACLU. In a cubicle on paperwork, and we had so much free time. I'm surprised how boring it is for most people working at the ACLU, including like actual lawyers and stuff. Like it's very slow there. And YouTube was just a thing at that time that was a time killer. And it's true. Like so much of YouTube 1.0, the ones that are still around, I think I first noticed it when like Philip DeFranco was like, man, fucking Ron Paul rocks. Wait, what?
Oh, I for like at 2008 or something, like I actually like Ron Paul, but I wasn't critical of capitalism at that time.
I have a theory about very quickly. I have a theory about one, and I think it applies like James Woods or Roseanne or whatever. I think that people who spend their life trying to make it as a celebrity become so isolated and so ignorant that they become reactionaries just by what they've done to become a celebrity has made them isolated and paranoid, and the reactionary politics just makes sense at that point.
Yeah.
Nice, we can get a bunch of anarchists in a room and actually agree on stuff. And Piper, I sent your friend request on Facebook.
Okay. I want to see in the chat.
Cool.
Do you think? Crap. Who agrees with Bronx Blogger that this is the new or that streams are definitely the way that the platform's going?
I do.
I think that would.
I like the streams, but fucking someone told me that Google Hangouts is getting nixed soon.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying abandon prime content. We're not right wingers, but I think that we should have some kind of a for our side because the right wing is very, very advanced in that right now. And when people want to fill time, they should be able to fill time with lefties, proper lefties.
There's a lot,
and not like the fucking Young Turks.
Something to look into is a lot of people do podcasts now. Now, a lot of the leftist podcasts are honestly, in my opinion, pretty bad. But a few of them are good, and it's a good medium in principle. And all you have to really do is record yourself and then upload it to iTunes or SoundCloud or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
You can even do it on YouTube as videos. You can make like an hour-long video as a podcast.
I mean, honestly.
Oh, yeah. You could stream it here and then just syndicate it onto the podcast platforms.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, you can either record with Audacity or just rip the Hangout. And honestly, for me, it was like these Hangouts, particularly on Garrett's channel, that like he exposed me to so many other different like leftists and liberals that I still follow to today.
By the way, what the hell? Did he just like ghost or something? I thought
Garrett?
he like left the internet. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
he did. He did delete his old YouTube channel and his Twitter and his Patreon, and I was one of his $5 patrons at the time, and his Discord server that he had run for his patrons, for his $5 patrons. It was a personal reason, and I don't know if he's expressed it in like YouTube channels and stuff like that, but I'm not going to go into it.
I mean, you don't have to tell me the reasons.
Oh, I know some of the stuff that were going on behind the scenes at the time, but again, I'm not gonna.
But he's back.
He was on someone's he was on someone's political channel the other day. Who was that?
He was on I don't know what channel he was on the other day. I know he hosted.
It was a hangout.
He did he did one. He hosted one with Gwen Ophir and Captain Andy, and like 2 weeks ago or something like that, he was on the stream with Christiosity, Thought Slime, and Gwen Ophir.
Yes.
Did y'all vote in the midterm?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I voted during the midterms. I don't have the fucking time to.
I mean, for me, voting is like a one-day thing, right?
Yeah.
I just didn't see the point when I could sit at home and not do that.
True.
I mean, even in my congressional district of the District 9 of Washington State, it was a Democrat against each other. I still voted, but like it's because in Washington State we have top 2 primary. Whoever the top 2 candidates in that primary will go on to general, no matter what. So it's not like each party gets to like their own candidate. No, it's just whoever's top 2.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Very quickly, I do actually have someone coming over. So thank you everyone for hosting me. I was very happy, to finally have some company and not be on a stream with a bunch of, shitbags.
you gotta have a hangout with like other leftists. It would like balance out having hangouts with like alt-righters, right-wingers, or even sometimes just liberals.
Well, I plan to do a stream every week at this point now.
That definitely is very cool. We will catch up. Everyone have a good night. Enjoy your weekend.
Cool. Yes.
All right. Good night. Enjoy your weekend. All right. I think I'm gonna call it for the night too, because I'm just.
Okay.
I've been at it since 5 o'clock with this stream, and I'm just like ready to.
I've been streaming. I've been in Hangouts for like 4.5 hours now because I was on Christiosity's Patreon stream.
Yeah. You've been like thoroughly hangouted out.
I'm doing 2 more tomorrow too.
Oh yeah. Hey. So does anybody want to say anything before we zap the podcast?
Well, why can't I do a hangout?
You can. I'm not sure if you
want. Hold the next one.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, according to me. I'm an anarchist. I can't tell you what to do.
Remember, Bookchin has the answers, except Bookchin was too weird of a species, to be honest.
Okay.
All right. So, anything else from anybody? Anything about your channels or?
I have not posted anything in like 2 months. I have not posted an edited video in like almost 2 months. So maybe I'll get back onto it. So still check it out every time. But I do movie reviews. I don't talk about like anarchism and politics except when I'm in hangouts like this.
I don't know. I guess I can begrudgingly tell you what my stuff is. I mean, I post on it frequently, but I'm not a fan of promoting it necessarily. My YouTube channel is Social Revolution. And I have a WordPress blog called Rage Against Capital, and you can find both of them. Each one has a link to the other. So,
all right. Well, I'm actually going to get to work to posting those links. Oh,
don't forget my channel link.
I won't. The Vegan Anarchist. You got it.
Yeah,
no meat, no milk, no masters.
No masters. Gotcha. Do people even take me seriously?
Well, I do.
All right.
I get a lot of hate from the right wing.
You will, yeah.
I really don't want to end this mid-sentence, but I will.
Also, I like it, Deputy said.
All right. And now we are